Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back for a very special edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, you know him. He is the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And conspicuous by his absence is the senior sports editor of the ODPH. He is your coach. He is my coach. He is the coach, Coach Duffy.
He's trying to figure out how to become a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Yeah, we've kind of heard he's teetering on the fandom, but fear not, ODPH Society, because we brought in a heavy hitter for this show because we are going to be talking about the NFL. And who better to bring in than family of the show? You know him from 8122 Productions. You know him as the host of the Three Fat Nerds podcast. You know him as the host of 607 TWS on Twitch, where every week we are talking everything going on in the land of pro wrestling. But you also know this gentleman as the reigning, defending, Locks and Leaps champion of the 607 podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen of the ODPH Society, please give a warm welcome to our guy, the one and only Rich Coriel.
That's right. I'm here. I was waiting after our pre-show to get the whole Nick Gage entrance, but I didn't get that. But you did very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
I'm used to just saying, and I'm your host, Rich, because then I just go on to put other people over. So it's always interesting to be put over.
Yes, well, absolutely. I mean, we, like I say, it's family of the show. So anytime you come through, we got to make a big deal of it.
Yes, it's fun, and I'm glad to be here for the kickoff extravaganza.
Yes. We do the NFL preview like nobody else, so that is what we're going to be talking about this entire episode. So we definitely want to interact with you, so definitely swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join in the conversation on all the social media accounts. You can check out the TeePublic store and everything that is the ODPH right then and there. And always remember to use the hashtag ODPHpod. So as we are saying, the NFL season is now upon us. The last preseason games have been officially wrapped up. Everybody's taking another week off to be safe. And then we kick off next Thursday in prime time with the Dallas Cowboys and the reigning, defending Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we have to give our picks and let you know about what teams you should notice, what teams you should skip, and get into everything that is the NFL. So, Pad, why don't we start in our favorite division, that AFC East?
Let's say the baby quarterback division, as we'll get to in a minute. So, yeah, looking at the AFC East, last year you had the Buffalo Bills win the division, finishing with a record of 13-3. Miami Dolphins finished in second place with a record of 10-6. New England Patriots finished in third with a record of 7-9. And then the New York Jets finished in last with a god-awful record of 2-14.
Rich, now I know that we'll get to your team in just a little bit, but what's your thoughts about the whole AFC East?
Oh, man, the AFC East got shaken to the core when Tom Brady left the New England Patriots. And as prophesized, the Buffalo Bills would be the team to take over. As far as going into last season, it kind of finished the way I thought it would, except for Miami. I was kind of surprised by Miami, although they barely squeaked out a above 500 record. And come on, the Jets. I'm surprised they won 2 games. I don't even remember them winning 2 games out of the season. But still.
I think at least one of them was a fluke. Like,
it
at
had
the end of the game, they were like, wait, we won?
It had to have been. But, I mean, I know there's been some big changes this year. Of course, as we're recording today, there was a big announcement and change for the New England Patriots. But I'm just going to say up front, I think this is still the division for the Buffalo Bills to lose. I don't see them finishing anywhere but first, especially since everybody else seems to be on a rebuild, with the exception of the Miami Dolphins, and God knows what's going on with them. Because some weeks they show up to play and some weeks they don't. So
yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting. I pulled up our predictions from last year for Ken, Rich, or not Rich, Coach and myself. We all picked the Buffalo Bills to win out the division last year just because, we weren't reading tea leaves and we weren't reading the cosmos. Like, it was pretty evident Brady's gone. Didn't know what we were going to get out of Cam up in New England. The Buffalo's got the established quarterback with Josh Allen. Miami, we didn't know what the hell they were going to do, and the Jets were, well, awful. I think we were predicting them to get one win, if not none at all. You know, so that went about as well as expected. And it's going to be definitely interesting this year because, as Rich alluded to, you know, teams are making cuts and trimming their rosters down to the necessary size. And the Patriots released one Cam Newton, which not entirely a surprise if you really sit there and think about it. I mean, there's some stuff that, you know, we're not going to get into because that falls under, I'll call it the Keith Lee rule, which may be true, may not be true. We're not going to get into it. What I think it does fall under, though, at least the part we can look at, is you look at what happened last year with Cam. And you can, and I sat there at the end of the season, I'm like, all right, cut him some slack. Didn't get the full training camp, came in at a weird time, was out however many weeks he was with COVID. You know, give him a full off season, give him a full training camp, give him the preseason, and see where we go from there. And that was, I think, the plan from the outset of OTAs and all that. Like, hey, he's going to have a full seat. Like, the proverbial leash was going to be very short. Like, we've got this rookie quarterback we drafted out of Alabama who's supposed to be real good. If you don't perform well, you're going to be on the bench. We're going to sub you out for Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is going to be in. And I think what happened, and this is without me knowing anything, you know, I think what happened is just from reading things, you know, preseason went along, training camp went along. Mac Jones was really starting to impress some folks, including Dante Scarnecchia, who was the Patriots O-line coach for like 20 or 30 years. You know, he was raving about Mac Jones and all the other team, because they did joint practices with all the teams they went against in the preseason. You know, the defensive coaches and players just raving about Mac Jones. And I just think ultimately Mac proved himself better, you know, and he ultimately won out. And now the wild thing that I read today, the oldest quarterback in the AFC East is Josh Allen, and he's 25.
That is a wild stat.
Baby arm division.
It's absolutely crazy to think about it.
I'm going to say about that situation also, I think that Cam Newton, unfortunately, he's seen better days. He's getting on in age, he's getting on in the career. But also, he's also playing in a system where Bill Belichick doesn't necessarily know what to do with an athletic quarterback.
Yeah, and
he's a pocket passer guy.
And the thing, too, is the Patriots spent all that money when free agency started and completely retooled that offense, you know, bringing in the 2 tight ends, wide receivers, bunch of defensive guys. I had a feeling he might not be long for the starting job because you don't have a mobile running quarterback as your starter when you have a lot of offensive weapons.
Yeah, it's
and Cam, not known for his throwing.
No, definitely not. I mean, for the Patriots to make this move, it's definitely a big feather in the cap of Mac Jones.
Well, I also got to say buyer beware, though. And I mean, it's good that the division has a bunch of young quarterbacks, but unfortunately, when you put that young kid on the field for the first time, this ain't college anymore.
No.
And I'm not judging anything against his talent. He could go out there and he could absolutely slay it. We've seen that in the past. But there's usually some growing pains. And and so that's why I feel comfortable with saying the Bills pretty much should still have the East on lock, because I don't think that the young quarterback, unless he has the greatest rookie season of all time, is going to push the needle that much.
Yeah.
I would be surprised, and I'm not crapping on them. I'm going to say that the over and under on them being at least 500, I'm going to say that they're going to be 500.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely. Optimistically, I think they'll make a push and they'll do better than they did last year. They'll contend and they'll give the Bills a run for their money. I think the Bills will ultimately get it though, and that's just going to come down to Allen's experience versus Mac Jones' rookie experience. Like Rich said, there is that transition from college to pros. That there is that learning curve. I'll tell you this though, it will be real interesting. Week 1 up in New England, it's the Alabama Bowl, baby. Miami Dolphins versus the New England Patriots. So you're going to have Tua versus Mac Jones. Week 2, Zach Wilson from BYU up playing the Patriots. Week 4, Brady versus Mac Jones in Foxborough.
He's got a tough challenge as far as quarterback matchups in the first few weeks. That's for damn sure. I will say this though. The Bills also, I think, have something else working for them. They made it. They fought. They clawed. They got far in the playoffs. However, they learned a valuable lesson in those playoffs that it doesn't always pay off to be the nice guys who work hard. I think they have a lot to prove, and I hope that with bringing back a good number of people from that roster, that all of them come out and go, hey, last year we didn't get it done. Maybe because we didn't go hard enough. Maybe because we misunderstood who we were playing.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, Kansas City is kind of cheap. I'll say that all day, and it has no effect on the team that is my favorite team. It is the fact that look at how they play the game.
Yeah.
And now I think they have something to prove even furthermore. And that division is weak. Like I said, Miami, you can flip a coin on what team you're going to get. the Jets are atrocious, and they didn't do anything to be better.
They added a quarterback. Cool. What else did you add?
Exactly. I mean, that's something we got to just kind of really focus on with the Jets, because they took Zach Wilson very high out of Brigham Young, and you don't know what you're going to get out of him.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing they do have in their favor, I do like that their new head coach, Robin Salam, has been really kind of going, or Slam, I'm sorry, I apologize, has been really trying to build the culture of winning and really turn the ship around from their previous regime. So we have to give him some time, but this is not going to be the season to do it.
No.
And I'm just waiting to see how this kid's going to fare in New York City.
Yeah,
because it's a whole different ball game from going from Brigham Young to NYC.
NYC.
On a personal note, I one day hope that Brigham Young changes their name to the Stormin' Mormons. I've said that for years. I feel like that'd be great. But you're taking this young man from Brigham Young, which is a historic Mormon school, and you're putting him now in the big city.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you take the Amish for Rumspringa.
Yeah.
This could be, I don't know. This kid could just, I don't know how I feel about it as far as like how the culture shock is going to work for him. I just think he's going to have a lot of learning.
I think his mother even said something to that effect during the NFL draft, because his parents were there, and the reporter for ESPN was interviewing him and asked him, "Mom, what's it going to be like for you watching your son playing in the big lights in the Big Apple?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a change, because his entire life he's played within driving distance of us, and we've always been able to be there and support him and this and that, and now he's going to be all the way across the country." And I'm like, "Ooh, you're saying more than you're actually saying."
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is going to be a culture shock for that young man. And once again, I hope I never wish anybody bad. I hope he does great. I just think that there's a lot working against him to have a breakout rookie season. Hopefully the tools are there to grow.
No, I fully agree with you. And like I say, with the head coach there with Salel playing as well as he can build that culture around him, I think he's got a chance, but it's not going to be this season.
No, it's definitely not.
Like I say, I got the Jets going 4-13 this season.
I'm going to say 3 wins if they're lucky, because I'm looking at they don't have their star offensive player Frank Gore anymore. Because let's remember, last year more often than not, Frank Gore at 398 years old was their best offensive production.
Yeah.
But they've got Tevin Coleman as their number one running back. Corey Davis is one of their number one receivers. Jamison Crowder is another one of their number one receivers. Tyler Kroft is their number one tight end. Sorry, unless it's maybe Jamison Crowder in like one of the last few rounds of fantasy, I'm not picking any of them up.
No, nor should you. I mean, there's no point. Like, for right now, the Jets are going to be so bad in rebuilding that it's very scary to take any of them for fantasy football. And I think that they're going to go through a lot of growing pains, and this is really going to test what that Wilson kid is all about. But like I say, it's going to be some time before the Jets get relevant. Miami, like Rich touched upon, is a coin flip each week.
I think they're going to regress from where they were last year, just because, let's remember, most of those games were started by Tua, but they pulled him and put Fitzpatrick in to close the game out.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick is no longer there.
Exactly. Like, what does that do to a rookie quarterback?
Oh, when you don't have confidence in people who have been to the dance before and like been in games and in the playoffs even in some circumstances, it does not do good for your motivations. And I'm just taking a quick look at the Jets' schedule this season, and they've got a tough road. I'm just trying to like go through and like kind of pick where I would see the holes in. I mean, you open the season against the New York Giants, and no matter how you look at the New York Giants, they're still better than the New York Jets. Okay,
I think you're looking at preseason.
Oh, is that preseason?
Yeah,
it is preseason.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Let's move up. The Panthers are opening against.
Yep.
Am I right now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I was too far down. Okay, so they got the Panthers, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Titans, the Falcons, the Patriots again, the Bengals, the Colts, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Texans, which could be a win, the Eagles, the Saints, the Dolphins, and then the Jaguars, which should be a win because the only team possibly worse than them is probably the Jaguars. And then they got the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Hey.
And then they end the season in Buffalo.
Hey.
Like I say, in theory, they're going to have the toughest road of anybody, and Miami's going to be right behind them, too.
So there's a possibility against New Orleans, but it's a question of who's quarterbacking at that point.
Well, that's going to be a big X factor then. But to see what Miami is doing in comparison to them, other than Tua, like unless he's shown some great growth, and granted they did go get a wide receiver to really to balance him out.
Oh, yeah.
What else have they done on that offense to really make you be worried about them?
Not much.
You're looking at their depth chart. Like, who's on there that scares you?
Yeah, no, nobody.
That's the whole point. I mean, I know that they got the rookie from LSU to balance, or no, from Alabama. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Waddle.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. So they got him to be a component for Tua, but that's only going to get you so far. But if you don't have a solid running game.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin's listed as their number one running back. Devontae Parker, one of their starting receivers. They've also got Will Fuller, but he's suspended. So presumably Preston Williams will be getting the start at that wide receiver position. Jalen Waddle, as you mentioned, is their one of their starting wide receivers. And then Mike Gesicki is their starting tight end. Again, not putting fear in me.
No, Gesicki will be solid for him, but he's not going to move the needle as much to get him some wins. Like I say, I see them going about 6-11 range. Just because you don't know what's going to go on in that defense, too. And especially, they're not exactly the happiest squad right now as well. They're a coin flip each week.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their schedule currently, and this time I skip past the preseason, Pat. Don't worry. They open the season in New England.
Good luck.
They then go home, but they play the Bills.
Good luck.
Then they travel to Las Vegas.
Good luck.
Then they're back home for the Colts.
50-50 shot.
That's a 50-50 shot.
That's a 50-50.
Then they're in Tampa Bay.
Good luck.
Then they're in Jacksonville. That's once again we'll get there. Then they have the Falcons. Then they play the Bills again in Buffalo. Then they have the Texans. Then they have the Ravens. Then they have the Jets.
They should win that.
The Panthers, the Giants, back to the Dolphins, the Saints, the Titans, and then they end the season at home, but against the New England Patriots. So I agree with you. 6-11 could be possibly the best they can hope for because there is a few weak games. But man, that beginning of the season where you open in New England, you then come home to play Buffalo, to then fly almost across the entire country to play the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. And of course, when we get there, and that's my team, they are always a question mark, but they always have the possibility to be the best team in the league.
Yeah.
And so you have a murderer's row, and then you get a questionable one finally against the Colts.
Yeah.
Before then you get your shit pushed in by the Buccaneers.
And in case anyone forgets, Tom Brady likes playing the Dolphins.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he's going to thrive in that. So for Miami, I mean, that's the best they can really hope for, unless they pull some miracle off, which I'm not down that they could do. But the only thing with them is they're one of the biggest X factors in the league because with Tua, the fact that you didn't have faith in closing, that's the biggest thing from last season. And I will stand on my soapbox and scream it. The fact that you didn't let him close is going to be so detrimental to you now because you don't have Fitzpatrick there to back him up. I know there's that talk about trading for Deshaun Watson. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
But you're still going to have a new quarterback come in there and try switching things up. Like, how do you expect to win at this stage? You don't.
I mean, the nice part about Miami is the pressure's off because they're not going to be the worst team in Florida.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
I mean, they're not going to be the best team, and that puts pressure off you because the Buccaneers are automatically there, right?
Also, there's no pressure on the team outside of their fan base to win because the fans obviously want to see them win, but I don't think anybody is realistically going, you know what? Dolphins are going to win the division.
No.
Yeah.
I think everybody is kind of silent with us. The Bills should walk away with this yet again. Just because of experience and because right now that they are the most solid team coming back to it, even though they have a decent schedule ahead of them, they can compete with every team on their schedule.
Barring anything wild.
Right, barring Josh Allen getting injured.
Yeah.
Because I do think that Josh Allen's the key to the offensive success. He's a very good leader. We've seen that he does a great job leading for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when the pressure was on, he was still there. I mean, it did get to him a little bit in the championship game, but
the problem that the Bills have, and I'll be the first one to tell you, they will not get anywhere in the playoffs unless they can shore up their run defense and they can actually establish the run.
Also, if their coordinators can learn the term second half adjustments.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a big thing, which if you listen to this show, you know I'm very critical of. But that's just something in preseason. I haven't seen those adjustments. I have not seen enough. Singletary has had a great preseason, but it's still preseason.
Preseason don't mean shit. How many years did Peyton Manning go like 0-4 in the preseason just to rattle off 11 wins in a row?
I also want to point out the Bills should open the season 4-1 at the very least. And the reason why they open against the Steelers, but this is not the Steelers of old.
Right.
This is a Steelers team that's on its ass. We'll be talking about that soon. Then the Dolphins, then the Washington football team, then the Texans, and then the Chiefs. So finally they have a game where you're going to have to actually play your A game to come out on top.
Yeah.
Well, we always knew Buffalo liked cupcakes.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, that they really need to step up, and the Chiefs are their benchmark. I think that
Absolutely.
that playoff loss it should have been an eye-opener, and I think Brandon Beane has made some adjustments to accommodate. Some.
By the way, I just looked ahead. Following weeks, in order, Titans, Dolphins, Jaguars, Jets, Colts, Saints, and then the Patriots. So they have 6 games in a row where they should win those games average by like 20 points.
They should.
Like, because all of those teams are kind of, and when we get to those teams, obviously we've talked about a couple of them, but when we get to some of those teams, most of those teams are really, really on their last leg until you get to the Patriots, who, will obviously play them tough.
Tennessee is the only one that really kind of scares me out of that crop.
Yeah.
Just because that run defense is going to be so suspect, and obviously Derrick Henry now, with the addition of Julio Jones, which we'll get to in a bit, that's a scary 1-2 punch that Buffalo is going to really need to focus on if they're really going to make a run. The other thing that scares me, too, like I said, they have no run offense established. They need somebody that actually can get through the trenches and really push the ball forward and move the chains. If you're relying on Josh Allen to do that every game, that's a lot. But that's also what you kind of go into that Pittsburgh mentality when they had Ben Roethlisberger trying to make something out of nothing, too. Granted, Allen can run a lot more. Thank God he stopped hurtling people, because that would give me a heart attack every single time. But unless he's kind of mastered that and really can establish something, they're going to struggle. I think they're going to win the East outright. Don't get me wrong. I have them going 10-7 in the East, and it could be higher.
After looking at their schedule, I'm going to say 12-5, because you got to remember we have 17 games this year.
Yeah, or 18 technically.
Or 18. Well, there's 18 weeks, 17 games.
Yeah, that's
instead of 17 weeks and 16 games.
Yeah, no, they should, but I could just see them getting costly because they can't establish the run. Like that's the one thing that kind of worries me.
I do want to throw this out to everybody here, though. I'm keeping my eye. December the 6th. It was a Monday night. It is in Buffalo. Patriots, Bills. Maybe we should go. I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah.
Could be a possibility.
Could be.
Unless it gets bumped from Monday night, but that means that both of those teams have to do atrocious for that to happen.
Well, does Monday night now have flex scheduling?
I believe it does.
Okay, that's right. The new agreement they just signed. I forgot there was so much going on with that one.
Yes, that Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night.
Yeah,
all the primetime games, the big games, the big boys, if you will.
Yeah,
they all have flex scheduling now.
Yeah,
which is good for TV ratings.
Oh yeah, especially there. I just remember very vividly there was a stinker Monday night got stuck with where it was like Cleveland and like I want to say it was like the Jets or Giants or something. That just both teams sucked. There was nobody really, like, all the star players were hurt, and it's just like, God, this is awful.
Well, diving into that for a second, the funny part about it is in the beginning of the season, they like to try to spread the wealth to every team, so they make sure they get a prime time. But as you get closer, you got to remember, you are competing for advertiser dollar. So if you have two teams that are combined records of 2 wins, you got to get rid of them for a better team.
When sports becomes a business, you got to cash in. It is what it is.
Hey, listen, I'm not mad at it because those are the games that we're guaranteed to watch nationally to begin with. Anybody can. And I want to see the best matchup.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if my team's not playing, I want to see the best matchup.
Oh, absolutely. If you're going to have me spend time on my day to watch your product, I want it to be the best product you can put on the field.
Absolutely.
I don't want to see anything watered down. But with that all being said, I think we're in consensus. The Bills should win the East.
Yep.
I think we all have the rankings. I have the Patriots going 9-8.
Okay.
To be honest. But it all depends on Mac Jones. And obviously, Alabama quarterbacks struggle. We've seen this in the past when they take that next step to the NFL, in my opinion. So if he can really turn around, but I think Belichick has given him enough talent to do it.
Oh, yeah. You're right about the curse, the Alabama curse. But what does Mac Jones have that none of those Alabama quarterbacks have had? Bill Belichick.
I was also going to say a dad bod.
Yeah.
Well, that too. Also McDaniels, who can do some really good things with the offense.
He made something happen with Tebow, so I'm not doubting anything is possible. So that's why I said they should go minimum 9-8, but I could see them going even higher. I don't think they're going to get past the Bills this year, but I think I got to see a lot out of Mac Jones coming right out the gate to put that stamp of approval on him. And then I said Miami will round up 3rd and then 4th.
Well, the bad part is now we can't do an even because there's 17 games, so you can't be like 8-8.
Yeah,
I do think that the Patriots are going to probably come in second, and they're going to have at least 8 wins. They might barely miss out on the winning season by 1 game, but I think that they'll still have at least win 8 games. The Dolphins, man, they do well despite themselves.
Yeah.
I still don't think that they'll finish above the Patriots, so I would agree with you. 6 or 7 wins is probably where they're. I would say 8 is their max that they can hope for.
8 is the ceiling.
And I'm going to say the Jets. If the Jets get more than 2 wins,
it's a win.
If they get more than 2 wins, this is a better season for them, and they're building in the right direction, I guess. But I'm not anticipating them going more than 2 wins.
Yeah,
and that's with adding a whole extra game.
Yeah, so LA is going to be doing a lot of stuff with that culture. Like I said, I fully love the signing that they got him. And I think that he's going to do some wonders, but you need to give him time. And that's the one thing with New York and the media. Now, granted, it's the Jets. It's not as intense as the Giants.
The expectations are not high.
But still, it's still New York media, and they're going to be breathing down his neck a little bit. But I think he can definitely weather the storm, but they got to do a lot of turning around very, very quickly if they're going to be relevant. Let's now switch some gears to the AFC North.
Sure. Last year, you had the Pittsburgh Steelers win the division with a record of 12-4. Baltimore finished in second place with the record of 11-5. You also had Cleveland finish with a record of 11-5. And then rounding out the division, you had the Cincinnati Bengals finishing with a record of 4-11-1. We also have to remember Joe Burrow was hurt, so that's partially why Cincinnati had that record. Rich, your thoughts?
I'm going to go on a limb and say, I never count against the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
They're always going to be the solid defensive team that they are, and they're going to do some stuff offensively, just enough to win. With that being said, I'm also the Steelers have passed, I would say, but it looks like the Steelers are on a downturn. Let's just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger ain't Ben Roethlisberger anymore. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they're trying to make a change quick enough. Meanwhile, Cleveland really impressed me last year, and they look set to do the same this year. If you're asking me right now, I think Cleveland's going to win this division, but they'll have some stiff competition from the Baltimore Ravens. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to have like the worst season, but I don't feel like they're going to finish in the top half. And Cincinnati is the real question mark here. With a healthy Joe Burrow, what are they going to do for the season? I don't think that they're going to challenge for the top two spots, but I think that they could challenge to put Pittsburgh in the basement and possibly get themselves at least 8 wins this season as well.
I definitely agree with you about Roethlisberger. He just turned 39 years old back in March. His better days are behind him. I think that's very evident just from what you see on the field. It's not as good as it used to be now. He was never the greatest passer of all time, but he was pretty darn good in his own rights. So I definitely think Pittsburgh is on a downward turn, and I think even the front office sees that with some of the moves they've made in the draft and off seasons. I'm looking at Cleveland. I think Cleveland might be onto something just because you look at how they did last year. They're very streaky. Lost their opening game last season, but then went on a 4-game win streak. Went back and forth playing a little table tennis, lost a game, won a game, lost a game, went on another 4-game winning streak, and then they played table tennis again, going back and forth. So I think Cleveland might be on to building something. Baltimore, you just don't know what the hell you're going to get out of them. They've got Lamar Jackson, which is all fine and good, but they've not really done anything in the offseason to really impress me. And I'm with Rich. Cincinnati is the big X factor. You've got Joe Burrow there, full season. Is he healthy? Is the injury going to hold up? We'll see. But I think I'm going to say Cleveland will win this division.
I think that this is the Browns to lose, to be honest with you. I think that they took enough strides, especially in that playoff loss to Kansas City, that they showed me something because, in my opinion, they should have won that game outright. They should have. And if it wasn't for that weird rule for the ball going out of bounds.
Oh, yeah.
That was the momentum killer. But if they had scored on that drive, the Super Bowl is a whole different landscape. I'm not saying they get there, but I'm saying it's a whole different momentum shift in Cleveland.
I agree.
And I think that this season, they're definitely playoff ready. That was one of those good losses, if you can say that, because it showed that they could hang. For everybody that had question marks about Baker Mayfield and company, they showed that they could hang with the best team in the AFC, and they outright beat them. So that going into this season, the confidence needs to be high. And I know they're getting Odell Beckham Jr. back.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be another X factor, and I don't know if that helps them or hurts them, to be honest with you.
That's a tough question. I mean, it should help them. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it should.
But once again, the comfortability in the quarterback position with your receivers, if he isn't the most, if that trust isn't there, if that's not, the target, that could cause friction because we all know that wide receivers tend to be very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
They're very needy.
Yeah.
And if the relationship's not there, that's not going to be. It's not going to be Baker Mayfield who's hurt in this situation. It's going to be Odell Beckham, and then he's going to be in his own head. And it's a weird situation. But I do agree with you there. I'm taking a look now. I got the Steelers schedule up, and their first 5 games are hard 5 games. Mm-hmm. I mean, we already talked. They open against the Bills in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Then they're home against the Raiders, which we mean good things. Not so fast. The Raiders own the Steelers at home.
Yes.
Like in the last 20 years, the Raiders have only lost 2 games in Pittsburgh.
It's a wild stat. It's something
Even when
like,
the Raiders were horrible,
Yeah.
they would beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers won a Super Bowl one year, and they got stomped out in their home turf by the Oakland Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird situation that goes on there. It's just kind of like how the Raiders and Broncos trade wins on the enemy field. Whoever's the home team usually loses in that situation. They got the Packers. And then they got the Broncos and Seahawks. I mean, so they have a pretty tough start for the Steelers to get something rolling. I don't know. That could be something.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a challenge for them, but they do have some great weapons on offense. Now, I think the Rookie of the Year candidate I have, and this is like my number one fantasy football player I think you need to go get if you're playing, is Najee Harris from Alabama. I think he's going to do a lot of great things for the running game, and definitely be somebody that can catch out of the backfield and really help Ben Roethlisberger. But like you touched upon, Ben is turning 39. How much can his body handle? Because let's face it, he gets banged up every season from the amount of stuff that he tries doing for extending plays. I applaud him for doing it, but still, the body can only take so much before it taps out.
Yep. And the biggest problem last year with them, even though they put some stuff together, was that when he wasn't playing, the backup situation wasn't looking too bright for them.
Yes.
They couldn't put together a win without him on the field.
Oh, I know. It was a complete struggle. So it literally lives and dies by Ben's health because they don't have a heir apparent.
No, and I mean, I'm looking at their depth chart. You got Mason Rudolph listed as their second string quarterback, and then Dwayne Haskins listed as their third string.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good.
And by the way, their fourth string is Joshua Dobbs, and he's on IR.
I was going to say, can we point this out? That would be a team in the running to possibly sign a Cam Newton as a backup.
That's what I was going to say.
If I'm them, that's what I'm doing.
I fully agree with you. I think they need to do that because they have the weapons around him, too, to really make some moves. I mean, Chase Claypool. I know Coach Duffy is smiling right now hearing that, but he is definitely a breakout superstar for him. Deontay Johnson is another one that could really do that whole third-year takeover game.
I mean, it's early in our discussions, but let's break it out. I heard the name earlier. Is this a possible home for Deshaun? Do the Steelers try to make a move to bring in Deshaun to this team? Deshaun Watson comes here. I mean, that means you're benching Big Ben. But is it time to make that tough decision?
I don't think so. I think that they are going to make a move, but I don't think they're going to take Watson.
If you're having me pick between Watson and Cam, I'd see them taking Cam
as a backup.
Watson as a backup, because let's face it, yes, all those players you mentioned, Ken, are great players. Like I said with the Patriots, Cam, not known for his throwing.
Sure. Oh, I'll give you that, but I just think that for right now, I think they would go with Cam because I think with Watson's situation, they would just kind of wait and see how it plays out.
I would also say it would go into where they are maybe 5-6 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
Because that's a team that does not like to lose. Let's be honest. They're not a team that likes to go through a rebuild phase. So I think if you start that season, and they could, looking at their tough schedule, you could start that season basically 2-3.
Yeah.
Or worse. And at that point in juncture, maybe they make the hard move and go after somebody. And it might not even be him. It might be somebody else going on the trading block because God knows what's going to happen by week 5 or 6. And I mean, I could see them doing it because they're a team that's very aggressive in that nature. They don't like losing.
No, they don't. I mean, obviously that culture has been known to win. And they do have a great nucleus and kind of character behind them. So that's why I say, they're not going to handle losing for long, but they've stayed with Mike Tomlin, and through the bad seasons, they've stood right by him. They haven't panicked. I would see them doing the same with Ben, but I was actually very surprised in this draft that they didn't go out and go get somebody, to be honest with you.
I agree with you.
Because I thought that this would be the time to move it. Now, granted, I think Harris is a great addition for their offense, but still, you have to start thinking long-term, and Ben is not going to play that long.
No.
I don't think they're going to go get Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay, even though that would be absolutely freaking wild. But they would have to get somebody to definitely take over. Is Mason Rudolph the guy? I don't know. I mean, possibly, but I think that there's better options out there. And I think that that's something they have to look at because they're in a win-now mode. But then again, we say it all the time. Ben can only do so much. If you can't keep him upright and on the field, what good is it? So the Steelers are going to be a very, very questionable team in a very, very tough division. Because then you take a look at what happens with Baltimore. Now, Baltimore just lost their running back in a obviously heartbreaking way. J.K. Dobbins is out for the season, tearing his ACL. So it's now up to Lamar Jackson, and the question now you have to think is Baltimore's defense is always solid. That's one thing you can always set your watch by. But what else is on that offense that can help them get over to the next level And then can he win in a shootout now if he doesn't have a running game?
Well, I'm looking at their depth chart. Their number one listed running back right now is a gentleman by the name of Gus Edwards, who is in his fourth season out of Rutgers. For the 2020 season, he had 144 attempts, 723 yards, 6 touchdowns. He averaged 5 yards carry. So nothing special, but he didn't really see all that much. In terms of their offense, they've got Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman at their wide receiver core. And then they've got Mark Andrews as their tight end.
Receiving wise, they're looking solid still. I got to give them that. You know what else they have working for them? Is I'm looking it up now. Their schedule. The first 5 games, I mean, you have 2 hard openers at night, prime time. The lights are going to be bright because they open in Las Vegas on Monday night.
Okay.
September the 13th. And then the following week, they're on the Sunday night game against the, former Super Bowl champions, Super Bowl participants, Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, that'll be a fun game.
So arguably the best team in the AFC. And then after that, though, we're talking the Lions, the Broncos, the Colts, the Chargers. Oh, my. In the next game, really, there's got the Bengals. And once again, they're the X factor. Before the Vikings, the Dolphins, the Bears, the Browns, the Steelers. They've got a pretty light schedule, especially in the front end. And the back end doesn't get much harder because the only really things in the back end sticking out to me is the Packers and the Rams, if the Rams are doing good this season.
Yeah, the only thing I see with the back end, though, is a lot of divisional games.
Yes.
And divisional games are a lot different than a normal game.
It's always that's probably the biggest X factor in all football because no matter how bad your team is, that's still your rivals.
That's true. But at the same point in juncture, you're looking at the beginning of their schedule where they could, even if they drop the first 2 games, they should pick up the next 4 pretty easily.
Yeah. In Baltimore, like I say, they should definitely make some damage and make some noise. It just depends on what Lamar Jackson's going to lead this team. And I fully think he can do it. There's no question of it. I don't want to come off like I don't think he can hang with it. But we really haven't seen him test with his arm to have to get into shootouts with some teams.
Well, in this case, and I mean, I hate seeing anybody injured, but at this point in juncture, it kind of worked out with the running back going down because now he can also use his feet.
That's true.
And that is something he is known for. So if ever the time was going to be to show flash some arm and then do what we know you do best, this might be the season. So that could actually play to their benefit, which kind of sounds weird when you lose a really good player. But it could work out because of their quarterback. Only because, let's be honest, there's not many guys that do what he does.
No, absolutely.
True.
I mean, that's the one thing that when he came on the scene and really exploded, we haven't seen anybody like him since Michael Vick, I would say.
Easily.
And here's the thing. We've had seasons now with him.
Uh-huh.
Most quarterbacks that play that style of football, with the exception of Michael Vick, and that's a great comparison, everybody figures out that quarterback by year 2.
Yeah.
We're now past year 2, and they still haven't figured this kid out. So that tells me that the athleticism there, and if he can keep his nose clean, which he tends to be a very, very upright fucking player.
Yeah.
Drop the F-bomb there, sorry.
No, you can swear on it.
And, he's a very good, I mean, come on, remember that Bills, he signed autographs for the Bills fans after losing.
Yeah, no.
That shows the kind of person he is. He's just a genuine person. I don't think he's going to have any off the field incidents like a Michael Vick.
Yeah.
So I think this kid's going to be somebody to watch for years to come. And this season, if anybody could put a team on his back, I wouldn't bet against him.
No. I definitely don't bet against him. And in fact, I wouldn't mind seeing him have a deep run in the playoffs because I know that's kind of been the stigma that's followed him. They can't lead his team. He can definitely lead his team. For anybody that doesn't think he can, you're not watching football. The one question I'm just going to have with this team, and I think he'll answer very quickly, is if you have to get into a shootout with a Kansas City or that type, can you at least hang? That's the big benchmark because when they play each other, that's what I'm going to be looking for.
I mean, they have the receivers to do it.
Yeah, they do.
So as long as he can do it with his arm, we're good. Because look at that receiving core. This is a pretty nasty receiving core, especially if you can get the ball to them.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't really judge him for the playoffs either. I mean, I know people do. But last year they lost against a very hot Buffalo team. Mm-hmm. And the year before, they lost to Kansas City.
Yeah.
And once again, those are 2 solid teams to lose into the playoffs for. Like, I mean, the Bills last year probably had the hottest hand coming into the playoffs.
Oh, facts.
And then you had the year before, let's be honest, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And they were a dominant team. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they hung with them in that game. Like, we almost had Baltimore going to the Super Bowl that year. So the fact that people question him in the playoffs, I don't think they should. I understand why, but I don't think they should because so far he's only lost to good teams. You only doubt somebody when they lose to that team you shouldn't lose to.
Yeah,
you know
like,
what I mean?
Like if he's getting blown out to Jacksonville.
Yeah,
then-
if Jacksonville somehow squeaks in with like the crappy record, which happens from time to time.
Oh,
we
yeah.
saw a couple teams last year make it in with losing records
Mm-hmm.
or 500. You know, so if you lose to that team, yeah, you deserve to be questioned because that means you can't play under the lights. But when you're losing to solid teams, like one that won the Super Bowl and the other one that, like I said, the Bills last season were the hottest team coming in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for losing to Kansas City. I kind of question, I think the Buccaneers-Bills matchup would have been a better matchup.
Oh,
I said that last year.
would have been the craziest storyline I know that you pitched to me, and I was like, oh my God.
It's been a great storyline.
Oh, that would have been WWE all day.
A great storyline. But at the same point in juncture, I think it would have been a better matchup.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And in hindsight, it would have been a better matchup. But, it is what it is. And like I said, I cannot vote against the Ravens having a good season because even when there's questions, somehow they pull it off. It's one of those teams that is always at the top of the division and they get it done. We've seen them lose big names before due to retirement and leaving. And somehow it wasn't even like they were missing them.
No, the culture that Jim Harbaugh has down there is freaking phenomenal. And this is just something for him that they've gotten used to losing big names, losing stars, and yet they still hang every year. So until something changes there, you got to consider the Ravens a big threat. And then now to look at Cincinnati, like we touched upon, that is the biggest X factor you have going. Because Joe Burrow was showing the signs that he had at LSU. The swag was there. Everything was going on. Obviously, injuries happen. But what is this team going to do this season?
Should be interesting. They've got Joe Mixon as their number one running back, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins as their number one wide receivers. T. Higgins, if I'm not mistaken, coming in from LSU, former teammates with one Joe Burrows. And then you've got, or is it Jamar Chase? I can't remember.
It's Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase. Apologies. And then you've got C.J. Uzma as their number one tight end.
So they definitely do have some weapons around them. But we just, in this division, I mean, this is just one of the toughest divisions in all of football. What are we going to get out of this second year?
Looking at the schedule, I mean, they have an interesting schedule. They're not one of those that has the cut and dry one. They open at home against the Vikings. Then they go on the road against the Bears. They're on the road against the Steelers. They come back home to face the Jacksonville Jaguars and they stay at home for a homestand against the Green Bay Packers coming in next, followed by the Lions, Ravens, Jets, Browns, and then Raiders. So they have a tough run after those first 5 games. But once again, it's kind of up and down, and it's kind of a good mix of home and away for them. There's nothing that sticks out to me. Once again, it's the X factor of can Joe Burrow stay healthy? Mm-hmm. Can the rest of the team stay healthy around him? And can they build off of the bright spots that they had before injuries cut that all short?
Yeah, no, definitely. If the Bengals want to make a run and make a challenge at the playoffs, I think they need to make that run and build up some wins early. Because I'm looking at that second half of the schedule after the bye week, and it's going to be rough. They come out of the bye week in week 10 to face the Raiders, Steelers, Chargers, 49ers, Broncos, Ravens, Chiefs, and Browns.
Yeah,
Yeesh.
You need to get those wins early because they might not come easy later.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. The end of the season for them is going to be more of a question mark. But if they can get the ball rolling, and they're the team that we've saw flashes of when they were healthy, they might have the ball rolling enough that momentum just carries them right through.
They could be one of those sleeper teams that jumps out and can sneak into a playoff spot. I mean, Zach Taylor's got a lot riding with this franchise, that he's the one steering the ship with Joe Burrow back at the helm. You got to think they got to be looking pretty good shape. And in comparison to the other coaches in the league, John Harbaugh, I believe I said Jim last segment there, I apologize. You know that he's a benchmark that you have to go up against. You definitely have to go match up with Mike Tomlin. You have to make sure that you can hang with that creme de la creme of the division. If you can, Cincinnati can definitely turn around. They won't be the Bungles, as it always was nicknamed to them. But it has to start now, and you definitely have the people in place to do that. Can they do that? I think it's going to be a big question mark. I just think they might come up short this season. But they remind me of, in a better situation, the Jets. Because you do have that young quarterback in there.
Yeah.
You're finally going to get a full season, hopefully, out of him. I mean, I'm not wishing injury on anybody, but let's just give him a full season. Let's see what he's got. You definitely gave him a great weapon in Jamar Chase, who could be a Rookie of the Year candidate. And if you can definitely put some points on the ball and hang with the rest of the league, and then when you got to face the Browns, I mean, Kevin Stefanski's done an amazing job with the coaching he's done there. If you can prove that you can hang with those guys, I think that you have made a statement even if you don't make the playoffs.
The Bengals have more, whereas the Jets have a lot of more downsides, the Bengals have more upsides.
Oh, yeah.
The one problem, the good and the bad of it is the AFC North is a very good division. And every team there can perform. And in the rivalry games there are usually split in half. Usually the teams don't sweep across the board there. They're very hard fought games. So you have that as an advantage, believe it or not, because that means that nobody's jumping out and just dominating a division, i.e. Buffalo and New England should have 4 easy wins. I say that. I know it can fall against.
Oh, absolutely.
But technically,
paper,
they should have 4 easy wins every season, and then battling it out amongst themselves in the AFC. It's just going by what we've gone by already. This is not that division. This is not the division where you can be like, okay, well, we're going to get these 2 easy wins this season against this team. No. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a dog fight. And the Bengals have the tools and they have the upside, but also they're going up against teams that are already established. And we like we said, we have the 2 gatekeepers that have been established for years in the Steelers and the Ravens. And then currently sitting on, and I know we're going to talk about them a little more now, is the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Who, after last season, you have to believe that team is a great team.
You have to give them that due. I mean, there's no way you can skip around. I mean, Pat, I know you got that depth chart up. I mean, look at this lineup they have for opening day.
Yeah, so, of course, Baker Mayfield is their starting quarterback. They've got Nick Chubb returning as their starting running back. Odell Beckham Jr. Coming back after his injury last year. You've also got Jarvis Landry and Donovan Peoples-Jones, also in the wide receiving core. You've got Austin Hooper as their tight end. And let's not forget, they've got Kareem Hunt on their running back core as well. So you got that tandem of Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Yo!
It's a great 1-2 punch, and everything they built up there is working, and I think that Stefanski got something out of Baker Mayfield that nobody else has. Confidence.
Also on defense, they've got Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. God damn.
Well, that's the thing. Garrett finally got some help.
Yeah, I agree.
That's been sorely needed
You
for
got
him.
Garrett on the left defensive end and Clowney on the right defensive end. Good luck to that line.
But can you get Clowney of old?
That's true.
That's the one big factor you need. But for what they've done, the Browns can hang. And they definitely have got some great talent on the sides of the ball.
They hung last year. They and speaking of hanging, we're going to find out real quick because they opened their season against the reigning AFC champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. And in Kansas City.
Good luck.
If you're the AFC champion, you get the home field advantage first game.
with presumably a full crowd who's going to be at fever pitch.
Well, you know the Browns are definitely going to want to get a little payback for last season.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. That's a good point. If they can open up and give the defending, the 2-time reigning AFC champions a loss on their home field opening week, the sky's the limit at that point. But then look at the schedule. You got the Texans, Browns, the Vikings, the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Broncos. And then we start getting into the second half of the season with the Steelers, the Bengals, the Patriots, the Lions, the Ravens. 2 weeks in a row, by the way.
That's brutal, too.
With a bye
in between.
Still,
there is a bye in between, but
still.
2 games in a row against the Ravens. The first one is away, the second one is home. Then you go. Then they have the Raiders at home, which is nice for them. At least they're playing in Cleveland. And then you have the Packers, Steelers, and Bengals to end the season. So if the Bengals can put together a roll, you have a tough last 4, 5, 6 games because you got 5 division games, and then the Raiders.
Yeah. It's an absolutely wild scenario for Cleveland, but if they can hit that ground running, that's going to be a big statement. And especially, too, one thing that we haven't really touched upon is we know Josh Allen got a big contract this season, and we know that coming up now is Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson. I think both are going to get completely paid, so I'm not saying it's going to be a question.
They're going nowhere.
But to see how motivated they're going to be to say, hey, Josh got that money, so should we, and they've definitely earned it. This is also going to be a factor, too, that I think is going to give Baker a little more pressure. And the one thing that I said when he got drafted is he was going to instill some hope into Cleveland because you hear a lot of players, they don't like going to those small market teams, let's be honest. Baker was one that embraced it. And him and Myles Garrett, since they've been there, have been championing Cleveland and trying to do all they can to turn that around. To make that deep run in the playoffs that they were working on, that's a huge thing to build off of. And especially now this season, they do got a couple of injuries they're going to be working through, but I don't think it's going to be anything too detrimental at this point. But that defense is still very solid. I think Denzel Ward is a very sleeper on the defensive side that doesn't get enough praise for the work that he does. And I think that with Myles Garrett now finally getting some help from Clowney, if you can get like 50% of the old Clowney, I think that's an upgrade from what he's had.
Yeah.
look at the monster season he could have, and he's motivated too.
So the only thing working against the Browns and Ravens in terms of like extending Baker and Lamar, and that's assuming they don't do it before they become free agents. They become free agents in 2023. So if the front office, for whatever reason, doesn't extend them before then, they're looking at potentially more big contract extensions. That'll just drive the price up even further.
Oh, yeah. I think they're going to try to make it happen as quick as possible. And as of right now, I think that both of them are happy where they are.
Yeah.
So that's what they have working for them, because they're going to probably try to make that deal happen. Now, mind you, other teams need quarterbacks, so and they're both tied to this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to make a bold prediction because we're going to give out our picks of how we think this is going to fit. I'm going to say as a division, I don't think anybody, and I could be wrong because the wild card, of course, is the Bengals. But I really feel like this division could be the division where nobody wins less than 8 games.
I could see that.
I think everybody in this division is going to win 8 or more games. This is going to be, in my opinion, one of, if not the toughest division in football. And it's going to be like last year where it's really going to come down to the last games. And I mean, last year they sent 3 teams to the playoffs.
This is true.
And this year they could do the same. Very easily and very closely like they did last year, because the Steelers had 12 wins, and then both the Browns and the Ravens had 11. Mm-hmm. We're going to have that again this year, I really think, at the top, because the only thing is I think that the Bengals are going to outperform the Steelers. I think the Steelers need to make some hard decisions soon. That is not a shot at Mike Tomlin. That is not a shot against the team. I just think that they have finally aged, and they haven't made the precautions or the backups necessary to protect that team.
I agree with that. So that being said, I'm taking Cleveland to win the division.
Okay.
I have them going right now 11-6. I could see them going 12-5. But in that kind of space, I think that they're too talented not to capitalize on the success of last season. And as long as nobody has any big injuries, I could see them getting back there. The Odell Beckham Jr. factor is going to be the factor to watch, though, because if he becomes a distraction because he wants the ball and gets very public in the media, and we've seen the track record throughout his career, that could be the only thing that could really hamper that team.
I'm going to point this out, though. The Browns front office has looked very good lately. In the past few years, they've definitely made strides to change. I don't think they'll put up with it. I think they'll ship him out if that happens.
I agree, too.
I think he'll be gone because I don't think that he needs that team more than that team needs him, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on that, because he's not the OBJ that was in the Giant Stadium doing the one-handed catch.
Well, not even that. Baker Mayfield shows us that he likes to spread the field and he likes to pass the ball to multiple receivers. He doesn't need one receiver. He's very much a Tom Brady type quarterback. I'm not saying he is Tom Brady, so don't quote that. I'm just saying he is like Tom Brady, where he likes his check down guys, so he likes throwing to the running backs and the tight ends. When the pressure gets put on, he's very smart about that. That's Brady-esque. But also, he likes to spread the ball.
Yeah.
He likes to make sure that's why he uses his running backs and his tight ends as receivers, as well as his wide receivers. He is a guy who likes to spread the ball. He's not going to throw to the same guy every play. OBJ is not going to be the guy who catches the majority of the passes because they're leaning on him. He is going to spread that ball around. If he does not like that, then I'm sure that they'll just show him the door and get something for him.
Yeah, because some team will take him.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no question about that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely picking Cleveland to win this division, and I'm going to just say there's a very real possibility we could be looking at Pittsburgh in last place in this division if you think about it, because you're going to have Cleveland playing real well, Baltimore playing real well, Cincinnati, if things hold up, playing real well, and on the flip side, Steelers, yeah, they're good. Yeah, they plugged and replaced a lot of guys who've left from retirement, trades, free agency, whatever. They always seem to lose that big player on their team that go, oh my God, how are they, Antonio Brown, oh my God, how are they going to recover from Antonio Brown leaving? They did just fine. Oh my God, how are they going to recover from the running back? I forget.
Oh, Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell's gone. How are they going to recover from that? They're doing just fine. Not the case with quarterback. And like I said, Ben's 39 years old. Brady is over 40. Brady looks real goddamn good for an over 40 quarterback. Yes, he doesn't throw the ball as well as he used to. The ball doesn't go as deep as it used to, but he still plays very well for his level. Ben, you can tell, is on the downward slope, and God forbid he gets hurt. We saw what happened last year. They didn't do anything to address it.
No, I agree.
Well, the good news, though, is the difference between Ben and Tom Brady is the difference in the fact that one of them lived and died by a big arm and the other one didn't.
That's true.
Tom Brady's never been known for having the big arm. Not saying he can't get the job done, obviously. Very good quarterback, one of the greatest of all time. But what was Ben known for? The big arm.
Yeah.
Launching that ball, standing flat-footed and being able to throw it 80 yards easily. And now he ain't doing that anymore.
No, and the other thing Ben's got working against him is that division will beat the hell out of each other.
Well, that's the one thing in this division that I think will take years off a career.
Well, we just talked about it. Every one of those teams has a great defense.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a day off in a divisional game. Every one of those teams is coming after you. And it's going to be who is. So I'm with you guys. I'm going to say Cleveland's going to win the division. I think that the Ravens are going to come in a close second. I'm going to think the Bengals will come in a close third. And then the Steelers is going to be, what is the record going to be? I already went on record saying I think that nobody's going to lose below 8 games. So even then, the Steelers could win 9. And I think that could possibly still happen, but I think they're going to finish in the basement. And it could be worse if Ben gets injured. If they don't make a move for a Cam Newton or somebody to come off the bench, they're going to be in big trouble if Ben gets injured, because they were in trouble last year, the few games he didn't play.
See, I'm with you on that. I think the Ravens are going to take second. I could see them going 10-7.
Sure, absolutely.
And then I think the Steelers are going to be at like a 9-8 record, because I think that if they start out strong, which I think they do, I think that'll carry through. But if Ben goes down, it's done. It's a wrap. Like, you can take this out of the equation. But if he plays a full 17, I think that they're going to go somewhere in the range of 9-8. Like,
I can agree with that.
I don't think it's going to be gangbuster, but you are going to see that decline. But then again, it just depends on if they can keep him upright enough to win some games. If you're relying on Mason Rudolph to do it, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. They need to do something. When we talk about Cincinnati, though, this is kind of the question mark I have with this team, because I'm not so sure what we're going to get. I can see them getting 8 wins, though. I can definitely see an 8-9 season happen with them easy. I don't think they're going to get over the hump just yet, but they could be that team that does surprise and like sneaks in there under everybody's radar. You know, there's one team every year that everybody takes for granted.
True.
And then they make a run. Cincinnati can be that. I just don't know right now at this second if they're there. So I'm going to say they're going to be in last, but I could see them being in last with like an 8-9 record.
Yeah, I can agree with all those sentiments. I do think, though, I'm actually kind of picking them as my sleeper, barring injuries.
Yes.
If they stay healthy, I think Cincinnati is going to be that team that could possibly make the playoffs. I think this division is possibly going to send 3 teams to the playoffs again.
It could definitely happen. It just depends on a couple of different teams, which we'll get into next segment.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So that being said, we're going to sneak out for a quick break, but definitely hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts on the AFC East and North? Who's your picks to win and why? Let's have that discussion. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
How's it going? This is Rev with Brewing Up Rants Podcast. Me and the Duke of Nerds himself are coming at you with rants while also kicking back a few cold ones ourselves. Nothing is off limits here, so put up your feet, pour a cold one for yourself, and come hang out with us. Brewing Up Rants is a Backcast Company production, can be found on all major podcast platforms, like the one you're listening to now and many more. So what are you waiting for? Seriously, like what are you waiting for? There's no cherry coke here. Pop open that beverage. And cheers to you nerds.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Coming back for another segment on this special edition of the ODPH podcast with Rich from 3FN in the house.
What up, what up?
Talking some NFL season preview. Last segment, we talked the AFC East and the North, but let's head to the South and talk that AFC South pad.
Yeah, so looking at the standings from last year, you had the Tennessee Titans win the division with a record of 11-5. You had the Colts finish in second place, also with a record of 11-5. The Houston Texans finished in third with a record of 4-12, and you had the Jacksonville Jaguars finish in last place with an abysmal record of 1-15.
Rich, your thoughts?
Oh man! So we were talking about how great the AFC North was. Mm-hmm. Like this is kind of the anti-AFC North. There's a lot of, and of course, in the AFC South this year, there is a lot of question marks. A lot of question marks. Like you have teams that could get there. You have teams that are capable. But that doesn't. We don't know if they're going to do it or not. Mm-hmm. The Texans are always capable, but there's so much infighting on that team, and they've lost so much talent because of the stuff that's going on in that front office.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for a big season from them.
No.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are just abysmal. I don't care that they had the number 1 pick or not. They have horrible management, starting with ownership down, and there's nothing that's going to fix that. And if you don't believe that hype, go ahead and go ask the soccer hooligans how they feel about Tony Khan.
Mm-hmm.
And then And then you have, the battle of the Colts and the Titans.
Yeah.
And the Titans are one of those teams that like we were talking about earlier. And mind you, this is your top team technically in your division, right? Mm-hmm. But it's one of those teams where it's like the Miami Dolphins. You don't know which team you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get this strong-willed run team that pulls out victories by the skin of their teeth, or if you're going to get the team that just does not show up at all. And the Colts, the nice part about them, at least they're kind of young.
The Colts, to me, are the most boring team to watch in the NFL. Even though they got Jonathan Taylor, and I think he's a great running back. But honest to God, I don't know how this team does it. I really don't. And I'm not hating on anybody that's fans of them. But seriously, they are like textbook 101. Like there's nothing flashy about them. You don't see a ton of highlights.
No.
But they get the freaking job done.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like I don't understand it a lot. I know that they have a new quarterback this season, but still, there is nothing exciting about this team.
No, but that's the point. The point is the basics work, and they went back to basics, and it paid off in a big way because they had a winning season. And if it wasn't for the fact that the teams in the AFC North are so good, they would have made a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
But, here we are, and I don't know. I'm going to just go on the limb and say if the Colts can play like they did last year, I think they're going to be the top team to beat in this division. They perform, albeit boring, as you point out, and you're not wrong, but they perform at a level that is more consistent than the Tennessee Titans do. And the two teams in the basement here are really in the basement because the Texans have smooched the pooch on this one.
Yeah.
Like, whatever's going on in the office down there should probably be investigated by the league because when all of your star players want out and most of them got their wish and they're just holding one hostage, pretty much, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And especially when they were so good previously. Because you got to think about the season before. They were a decent team. They were a team that was on the build. I'm not saying they were great, but you could see shades of brilliance. You could see the team that's, oh man, these guys are building something special.
Yeah.
Between Watson and then the defense was doing its thing. Like, you were like, okay, this is going to be the team to build and watch and probably be the dominant team in the AFC South for years to come. Yeah. All of a sudden, and it's not because the players got worse, because all those players are still playing well. It's because that front office, they lost respect. I don't know exactly why. I mean, we have ideas from what people, but nobody's come straight out.
Yeah.
Something's going on down there that should probably be investigated.
Texans are, like you said, are just a mess top to bottom. As a lot of NFL fans know, cuts are being made. The roster's getting trimmed down, as we said. The Houston Texans did put out their list of cuts and releases and whatnot. Deshaun Watson did make the list of the 53-man roster. ESPN.com currently has Deshaun Watson listed as the third-string quarterback behind one, the greatest Bills quarterback of all time, Tyrod Taylor. The second-string quarterback.
I thought you were going to say Nathan Peterman.
I thought about it. Second string is Davis Mills, and reading from an article on ESPN.com from Sarah Barshett, it reads, quote, the Texans have cut their active roster down to 53 players, and quarterback Deshaun Watson remains on it. Here's the key part. Watson, who is not expected to play for the Texans in 2021, will likely be a healthy scratch on game days if he stays on Houston's 53-man roster. The Texans are prepared to keep Watson on its roster for the rest of the season, a source told ESPN, close quote.
Once again, the reason the NFL should investigate them is you have arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the game today, or at least one of the brightest ones, and you are benching him and holding him hostage.
Yeah.
You're not even trying to trade him. So what kind of business sense does that make? That is the dumbest business you could ever have. Instead of putting him out there and fielding a legit trade for the man and getting some value.
Oh,
you're telling me teams aren't going to trade you first-round picks for a Deshaun Watson? Come on. Instead, you're going to bench him so he's worth nothing?
No, who was the team that was just rumored? I mean, granted, it was rumored, but it was 3 first-rounders and 2 seconds. For him.
I don't remember.
Philly, it was either Philly or Carolina. So.
It could have been Philly. It could have been Carolina.
I would have just traded for Darnold, though.
Right.
But
still.
before they got him, they could have. But I'm just saying, think about it. Philly, Carolina, New Orleans.
Yeah, I was just going to say New Orleans, yeah.
You know, there's and then those are the 3 that I can think of right now that really solidly need a quarterback. And then there's a bunch of teams that could use a quarterback boost.
Yeah.
And instead of being smart and putting him on the field and getting the best trade value you can, whatever is going on, you are not only messing with his career, which is fine, I guess, and that's what they're doing it for, But you're messing with the business end because now you're not going to get anything. You're either going to hold him on there until his contract runs out. Then what are you going to do? Slap the franchise sticker on him so you can hold him hostage some more?
Yeah,
so then you're paying him league minimum for a starting quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, you look at that offense. You've got Mark Ingram at their running back. You've got Brandon Cooks, Chris Conley, and Anthony Miller at the wide receiving core. Jordan Akins at the tight end position, and that's a pretty decent offensive weaponry. You know, not anything to write home about. Not certainly. You know, oh my God,
it's adequate.
It's adequate. And then you flip it to their schedule, which they opening up against Jacksonville. They got Cleveland, Jacksonville, Cleveland, Carolina, Buffalo, New England, Indy, Arizona, Rams, Dolphins, bye week. And then this is where they can make some noise and make some decency, I think. You got Tennessee. Okay, probably not. The Jets, yes. Colts, again, 50-50, depending on which team shows up that day. Seahawks, Jaguars, Chargers, Niners, and Titans. So if Deshaun Watson is there, there's some winnable games in that scenario, I think. But with Tyrod, not so much.
I'm going to take it a step further. If you start Deshaun, you might have a winning season. I'm not saying make the playoffs, but you might have a winning season because that second half of the schedule gets a lot lighter for them.
Is this a case of them trying to tank?
It could be.
Like the most overt example I've ever seen in the NFL?
Well, remember, they infamously did have the biggest tank of all time when they purposely kicked a field goal into the stands to get the number one pick once.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not beyond them. But here's my problem with this front office. You literally have the keys to trade away a quarterback that's going to fetch you at least 2 first-round picks.
Well, so they could do like the Oklahoma City Thunder front office and get a number of picks.
It's going to be an interesting scenario, however this plays out.
Dude, you could stand to do a Herschel Walker deal here. Mm-hmm. If you were smart. Because some team might go all in. And as you said, there was already a team, I can't remember who was trying to go 3 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders. Like, are you kidding me?
There's a lot of front offices that would have been like, yeah.
And you didn't trade that? I would have made that trade in a New York minute. Instead, you're going to, for whatever reason, you're going to leave him on your bench. That's dumb.
It's just something that Houston has just been misfiring a lot in their front office. I mean, we've seen this with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he was moved and how he left was just the start of just a snowball effect.
Well, and then
rolling downhill.
Not only DeAndre, but J.J. Watt. Let's not forget, because it's the anniversary, of Hurricane Harvey going through there, and everything that J.J. Watt did for that city. We're like, they introduced him by himself after he donated that absolute dump truck full of money to help out the area that he got out of there.
Yeah,
and he wanted out. And remember, we had all those great memes of Deshaun Watson trying to hold on to the wings of the plane.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Like, I just don't know what's going on there. It should probably be investigated by the NFL. Let's just be honest. Here's the sad part. Looking at their schedule, just in spite of themselves, they're probably going to win 4 or 5 games. In spite of themselves. They could actually have a winning record if you're starting Deshaun Watson. Without him, even the schedule on that back end is so bad, and there's so many terrible. I mean, you got 2 freebie wins against Jacksonville.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you have weak enough that I could see them winning 4 or 5 games. I don't see them doing much better, but that's how bad their season is set up. That literally, if Deshaun's playing, they're going to have an easy 9-win season. Easy 9-win season. But instead, we're going to sit him on the bench, and we're not getting anything for him. It's nonsense.
It's absolutely nonsense. I know he's asked for the trade request, and obviously he's under the investigation in the NFL of the separate lawsuits he has.
Yeah, it's
going
like
on
21 or 22.
22, according to NFL.com. I'm reading the article right now. So, I mean, it's a very puzzling situation with what is going on with him, but it's not doing Houston any favors. They're going absolutely nowhere. In fact, I'll even give you the early call right now. I think if they win 2 games, it'll be a miracle.
And like Rich said, it's hurting the team. It's also going to hurt that locker room, and it's really going to split that locker room where you really don't need it.
Honestly, I'm going to give them more than 2 games only because they get to play Jacksonville twice.
No, I can see. This is how bad I think Houston is. I think Jacksonville is going to actually sweep them. This is how bad things are. I mean, looking at how everything has just spiraled out. I mean, they've now hit rock bottom. But in my opinion, this is the worst team in football.
It's like the Colts are 50-50 split, just because, like I said, we don't know which Colts team is going to show up. Carolina, that's a maybe. Carolina, yeah, they got Sam Darnold, but they really don't have anything flashy outside Christian McCaffrey. I'm just looking at the rest of their teams. Miami, there's a lot of maybes. The only win I can see them getting is against the Jets because the Jets suck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much uncertainty with this team that it's just who knows. And obviously, with how they're handling stuff,
which sucks because I know some folks who live down in the Houston area and are diehard Houston Texans fans. And I know a guy who really likes to see them win, and just to see them in this state just sucks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a while before things get fixed down there. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, hopefully they can turn around, but we'll just have to wait and see about them. But Houston, the future is not bright.
No.
Flipping the corner to Jacksonville.
By the way, before we even go into depth charts, I got to say, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. Ready for it?
Bring it on.
They have Texans, the Broncos, Cardinals, Bengals, Titans, Dolphins, Seahawks, Bills, Colts, Niners, Falcons, Rams, Titans, Texans, Jets, Patriots, and Colts.
Yeah, that's not bad.
There is some good teams in there. Don't get me wrong, but there is a lot of trash in there.
It's like you got Cardinals, Seahawks, Bills, Rams, Titans, Patriots.
Yeah, it depends on which Rams team you're getting.
Yeah, and we don't know what we're going to get out of Stafford in the regular season with that team.
Yeah,
that's a pretty decent schedule.
Yeah, I mean, everything on them. They should be able to do more, but let's face it. Jacksonville is not exactly there yet. Urban Meyer is now at the helm. Who knows how his system's going to play at the pro level?
Yeah.
There's a big difference from coaching on Saturdays and coaching on Sundays.
I mean, didn't we try this experiment once with him?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was a while ago. It was a while ago. It was in the early 2000s, before he went down and had that dominance in Florida.
Yeah.
Which was real easy to have when you had the team he had. Let's just throw that one out there.
Oh, yeah, his team was...
taking nothing away from Urban Meyer, by the way.
No, but he's more suited for the college level than the pros.
Oh, absolutely. Nick Saban is the same.
Yeah.
Nick Saban was an abysmal pro coach, but you can't argue the facts in Alabama right now.
No, absolutely not. He's built a dynasty down there.
I'm looking. He has not coached.
No, I thought he did.
No, high school coach, Ohio State graduate assistant, Illinois State linebacker coach, Illinois State quarterbacks coach, Colorado State wide receivers coach. Why the hell does Coach hate this guy? He's a former Notre Dame coach, wide receivers coach for Notre Dame, Bowling Green head coach, Utah head coach, Florida head coach. Who cares about that team? Ohio State head coach, and now the Jaguars head coach.
Okay.
You know, I'm wondering if he was going to go somewhere and then backed out at the last minute.
That's
probably
what it was.
Ringing a bell. I want to say Dallas.
I want to say Dallas too,
But
because
don't
as soon as
quote
you
me.
started mentioning it, I think Dallas was where everybody thought he was going to go at one point.
Yeah.
Probably after Florida, before he went to Ohio State.
I think it was assumed, and then he decided not to for whatever
he
reason.
probably said, He probably seen how other coaches coached down there and said, we're done.
Exactly.
Jerry, am I going to have control of the team? No, it's my team.
Exactly. But for what he's going to do in Jacksonville, I mean, he has an open playing field. Obviously, losing his star running back for the season.
Also, the greatest tight end of all time, Tim Tebow.
Well, let's face it. Tebow, we knew he was going to give a shot to.
Oh, of
and,
course.
And Tebow had the chance, but obviously at this stage in the game has surpassed him. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Tebow, that's a whole different subject. I could go on a complete rant about that. But looking at where Jacksonville is now, though, there's nothing to really say this team is going to contend now.
No, I mean, they've got Trevor Lawrence, who has already been named the number one starter for Jacksonville. Duh. Because, I'm sorry, I don't trust their backup CJ Beathard. Who? They've got James Robinson as their starting running back, DJ Clark Jr. as one of their starting wide receivers, along with Marvin Jones Jr. and LaVisca Chenault Jr. And then you've got Chris Manhertz as their starting tight end. So again, much like the Jets, not anything I'd pick up in fantasy football.
And plus, Travis Etienne was the star running back that they drafted first round, and he's now out for the season.
Yep.
Listen, just like the Jets, they will be vying for the number one pick again next year.
We'll say the Jets and the Jaguars fall into what I'll call the Moneyball quote. In Moneyball, it's there's rich teams and then there's poor teams. Then there's 50 feet of crap and then there's us. For this, you can say there's good teams, there's bad teams, there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's the Jets and Jaguars.
I mean, it is what it is right now. I mean, Jacksonville has just been so abysmal the past few years, and now, I mean, obviously you get Trevor Lawrence around him, but you don't have the talent for him to really succeed at this moment.
It's going to be ugly.
It's going to be absolutely ugly. Like, Jacksonville, sure, is going to squeak out some games. I think they sweep Houston. That's how bad I think Houston is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of instances you see a quarterback get drafted number one overall, and, it's not the best situation, but it's like, all right, this might not be terrible. There might be a couple of winnable games with this. This team, hey.
Well, the one thing that they need is they need speed. Because that is how Urban Meyer's team works.
They need Keanu Reeves?
If they could get Keanu Reeves, I'm sure he would help. You go John Wick down the field on him. But they need a fast team around them. I don't see that with the current lineup they have in place right here. So that's why I say I think Urban's going to struggle big time. And
I think you got to give Urban a couple of years just to really get the guys in there that he needs.
Well, he's
through free agency and the draft.
He's going to need to. I mean, that's it. Because if they expect him to win now, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. He does have a generational quarterback in his roster, but you have to give him weapons. Otherwise, it's just another name that was hyped at college and isn't going to pan out in the pros. So it all depends on what you stack around him. And granted, like I say, injuries happen. Attain being out the year, that hurts. That hurts a lot. But what else do you have? And that's something they're going to have to answer. This team on paper is not scaring anybody. The only team I said that they're going to get 4 wins out of, I think they're going to get 4 wins this season. I think 2 are going to be against Houston. That's how this team is shaping up to me as I'm watching them right now. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that scares me about them at all. So that being said, this is a 2-team race again for the top. And you have the Colts on one corner, the most boring team in all of football.
Yep.
But they win. So you know what? That's all that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be pretty, but they win games. And then you have the team that made arguably one of the biggest free agent moves of the offseason, and that is Tennessee. Because they finally got a bona fide number 1 receiver who I'm sure is extremely happy to be out of Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now is on a legit contender that the only other person who's got to be happy about this is Derrick Henry.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's going to be real interesting to see looking at the Colts depth chart. Carson Wentz is supposed to be their starter, although asterisk that right now because he is one of a few Colts who are on their COVID-19 list, along with one of their receivers, Zach Pascal. But they've also got Jonathan Taylor as their starting running back. T.Y. Hilton is supposed to be one of their starting receivers, but, well.
He's out for a couple weeks. If not longer.
Yeah, they've got Michael Pittman Jr. as their other wide receiver, Zach Pascal, as I mentioned, and then Jack Doyle at the tight end position. So, again, much like the Jets and Jaguars, nothing real sexy. And then on the flip side, you got the Tennessee Titans, who've got Ryan Tannehill as their starter, Derrick Henry as their starting running back, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and Josh Reynolds as their starting wide receivers. Boy, Josh Reynolds is going to have to carry that receiving core. And then you've got Jeff Swaim as their starting tight end, which that ain't bad.
Not bad at all.
I mean, looking at it on paper, the Titans should just walk away with everything. I mean, that receiving core plus the running back, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is at this point.
I know Josh Reynolds, MVP candidate.
If you really think about it, it doesn't really matter who your quarterback is. You could probably put me in there at quarterback, and I could take that team to at least a 500 record.
Mm-hmm.
That's just in Ryan Tannehill jerseys, 50%, jacking up the prices on the wide receiving core.
Yeah,
there it is. Because I mean, listen, Tannehill, not a great quarterback.
No,
but
serviceable.
And when you're throwing the ball to Julio Jones, who will catch anything within like 10 yards, I think you're all right.
So throw it in the next zip code, and he still got it.
Yeah, I think you're going to be fine. Titans, I mean, the Titans are also set up to have a pretty decent schedule this year because, I mean, they opened the season at home against the Cardinals. They go against the Seahawks, the Colts, the Jets, the Jaguars. Then they have a challenge with the Bills. Then the Chiefs, so it gets a little tough. Then the Colts, which could be a challenge for them. The Rams, once again, we don't know who we're going to get there. And the Saints are next. Texans are The Patriots will give them a challenge. Once again, the Jaguars, the Steelers, the Niners, the Dolphins, and then the Texans to end the season. So it looks like the nice part for the AFC South this year is they got the easy schedules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think they did too. And I think for Tennessee, they're going to benefit from it huge. Because I think their division is so weak, they could get 5 wins easy, if not a full sweep. It just depends on what Indianapolis does against them.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Colts schedule too. Yikes, they got a little bit of a rough schedule. They open up against the Seahawks, then they play the Rams, Titans, Dolphins, Ravens, Texans, 49ers, Titans again, Jets, Jaguars, Buffalo Bills, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Houston Texans. They finally get their bye week in week 14. Mm-hmm. Goddamn, that's a run. And then they close out the season playing the Patriots, Cardinals, Raiders, and Jaguars.
Yeah, like I said, they have the hardest schedule in the South.
They're going to be taking their lumps come bye week, and that's not through any fault of their own. They're going to be fucking tired.
Yeah,
but on top of that, then you still have 2 tough teams with the Raiders and the Patriots in the second half. So it's not even like you have a clean slate to end the season.
And Arizona ain't no slouches.
Oh, yeah, no. Arizona's still in there as well. But I mean, Is it tough? I'm gonna go on a limb and say the Titans are gonna win this division, based upon the fact of that receiving core and their running game is going to be pretty much unstoppable. And on top of that, the only competition to them is the Colts. And on an overall record, the Colts have the way tougher the season. None of the other teams in the AFC South have to play the Buccaneers, but the Colts.
Yeah.
Like the Colts have a ridiculous schedule compared to everybody else's. So I think they'll still be that boring team that's going to put up some wins. They're going to be definitely the second place team, but that schedule does not favor them at all.
No, it definitely doesn't. So looking at that, I got to say, I like Tennessee. I like Tennessee to actually win this with a record of 12-5.
Okay.
I think that they could possibly sweep that division. And then with Derrick Henry now not having the box stacked so much against him,
Yeah.
he could have an MVP type year. He legit could.
So the entire workload of that entire team is not on his shoulders. He's got some help.
Yeah, he finally they made the perfect move by getting Julio Jones because, like you touched upon, Tannehill not the greatest quarterback, but he's having a renaissance right now in Tennessee, and the fact that he actually has line protection and from one of the best lines in all of football, he can actually throw the ball, but he actually has now somebody that can catch it deep and be a threat. Because Julio Jones, like I say, if he does half the greatness he did in Atlanta, is going to be light years ahead of what that receiving core was in Tennessee.
Well, that questionable arm is going to not be questionable anymore because you don't need to have an arm.
Yeah.
You're throwing it to Julio Jones.
Just get it around him.
All you have to do is, once again, the line's going to protect you. Mm-hmm. You're still going to Henry. When they try to stuff the run, you start going over the top to Julio Jones, which makes them creep back, and then Henry just takes back over and pounds the ball some more. I mean, this is basic 101
Yeah, this
football.
is smash mouth football.
So this should be I agree with you. They should go 12-5 or 11-6.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
They're definitely going to go to the playoffs because they're going to win the AFC South.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for the Colts, I think the Colts are the next best team in this division. The Colts might actually stop them from being undefeated in the division. I think they might be able to squeak out. They could probably squeak out a win.
They could split the series.
But unfortunately for them, due to their schedule, I see that they're going to be like 8-9. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because they have the hardest schedule we've gone over thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, then you have the two garbage teams. And when I mean garbage teams, I mean there's a drop-off. And you're absolutely right. They're going to be fighting for the toilet bowl. On paper, the Texans should, in spite of themselves, still win 4 or 5 games. But with all the stuff going down, you're right. They could end up losing all of them.
Yeah.
And as far as the Jaguars go, they're going to win maybe 1 or 2 games this season. Let's just be honest. Unless the Texans' front office problems are so bad that they get 2 easy wins against them, and then they'll win. There's your 2 wins.
That's what
maybe a win against the Jets. But I doubt they're even going to beat the Jets because the Jets have a better team on paper than the Jaguars do still.
Yeah, no, I think for my picks, Tennessee's going to finish first. Colts are going to finish second. The last 2 flip a coin.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't
flip
matter.
a coin. It doesn't matter.
Although the sad part is with the easy schedule, and barring him getting, if the league's not doing anything to him at this point in juncture, you should start him. Deshaun Watson, if he's playing, I think that the Texans would make a run to be the second place and even possibly give a first place run. And the reason why is because they have an easy schedule.
Right. That's the thing. It's just a big question mark of what's going to happen with him. That's the biggest storyline coming out of the AFC South. Because if they move Deshaun Watson, Houston's done. But if they're going to be just sitting him right now with all the investigations going on, it's not helping your team.
Unfortunately, that's not the reason they're sitting him, though.
Yeah.
Because if that was the reason, then they would have traded him.
Yeah.
For big trades, especially because that's looming. Because that was looming when the trades were offered.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So therefore, they're doing this out of spite.
Yeah, and that's not going to
And
get
that is
anywhere.
not good business. And once again, the league should really look into that because that's really kind of a really interesting thing. Because if I'm the league and you hear an offer of 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for a guy who is being investigated, well, he's being investigated. That's not the reason you're sitting him.
Yeah.
You're sitting him because you don't like him for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Well, he was asking for that trade out, and like you said, the front office there's just a lot of questionable stuff that is, just doing the optic test is just something is not right there. If all your star players are asking out, it's something that is raising a big flag of attention that somebody should be taking a look at. But that being said, this is Tennessee's division to lose. Enough said about that. So let us take a trip to the West.
Sure.
And I know Rich is definitely going to want to talk about this one, but Pat, you got the last year's records for the AFC West?
Yeah, so you had the Kansas City Chiefs not only win the AFC West, but went out the entire AFC to make it to the Super Bowl. Finished with a record of 14-2. The Las Vegas Raiders finished in second place with a record of 8-8. You had the Los Angeles Chargers finish in third with a record of 7-9, and the Denver Broncos round out the division with a record of 5-11.
I mean, I'm a Las Vegas Raider fan. Let's be honest. It's my favorite division. It's hard for me to call the Raiders because, man, they have shades of brilliance, and in any given day, they could be the best team in the NFL. Proof of which is last year, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs handily the first time, and the second time, they made a comeback and just came up short, which they still look better than the team when they were making the comeback. So here's the best team in the AFC 2 years in a row, and the Raiders put it up there. But then the Raiders would struggle against really bad teams. Which is the life of a Raiders fan.
Yes.
Gruden being back was nice. I saw some shades of brilliance there. I'm not ready to say that they're the crown achievement team, although I think that they're going to build on last year. The offseason didn't hurt them too much. I mean, we're returning pretty much all of the guys that make a difference on the team. The ones that hurt were last season. We lost a lot of guys that you thought would hurt, but they did better without them, which is unique.
Yeah, it's kind of weird they stepped up.
And then, you have the Chiefs. And so far, so good with the Chiefs. I mean, I've also said, and it's not just because I'm an AFC West fan, but they are the dirtiest team in football. Let's be honest. If there's any doubt in that, go back and watch the Bills-Chiefs game from last season. The dirtiest team in football. The way they won that game was simple. They got in the heads of the Bills, who were less experienced, and they just were out there, and they pissed them off and upset them enough that they made stupid plays, and then also got upset and made stupid penalties. That's what they do. The only team they can't do that against is the Raiders, because when they do that to the Raiders punch them in the mouth, and they run and cower and scare. This year, I expect that to be the same. I actually just expect the Raiders to sweep the Chiefs in the regular season. I'm not saying that they're going to win outright, be first place. I still think Kansas City will take that. But I do think the Raiders will beat them both games because they're the one team in the league that is not scared of the Chiefs. And when the Chiefs try their low balls stuff, it's between the Ravens and the Raiders who don't care, and they go right after him. And Patrick Mahomes should really watch himself because last year the Raiders almost put him out for good. And I think this year, I know bounties aren't supposed to be a thing, but I'm sure John Gruden has a nice bonus for whoever puts him out this year. And I'm sure somebody was really gunning, and that defense looks damn good. And that offensive line, if they can keep that up in Las Vegas from last year, that was the biggest surprise for me last season was that offensive line. Their line, who was made up of nobodies pretty much, was pretty dominant.
Gruden works very mysteriously about putting these lines together because, like you touched upon, they're not flashy names.
No.
They're not people that jump off the stat sheet. But they played very solid last year. And Josh Jacobs had a great season.
Mm-hmm.
So it is possible, but those Raiders, I think if there's anything the teams in the NFL should have been watching last season with the Raiders, you're right. They handled Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody should be taking notes on that game plan but this is how you beat Kansas City. Because the Raiders gave the blueprint. And I think the only team that picked up on it was Tampa Bay.
Well, Tampa Bay did for the Super Bowl. During the season, though, the Ravens also had a good run with them. And if they would have met them in the playoffs, I think the Ravens could have taken them down last year as well. Only due to the fact that, once again, what's the difference? The thing is playing hard-nosed defense. The Raiders historically play hard-nosed defense. Under John Gruden, the Raiders are going to play hard-nosed defense. So you can't bully a defense around it. Their job is to bully you.
Yeah.
And the Ravens are the same defense. The Ravens have been playing like that forever. They did get in their heads. The Chiefs did the year before, and I think that really pissed some people off in Baltimore. But that was also a younger team that did not have the leadership that they used to have in the past for the Ravens, whereas the Raiders, they have this weird – the one thing as being a Raiders fan is even when we lose, even when we were terrible, we have this swagger about us that is kind of a weird swagger.
The mystique. It's the mystique of the Raiders.
It is that team that's always going to be the villain. And instead of running from it and going, oh, no, we're not the villainous team, we play right into it.
Oh, facts.
And we like being that. We like being the silver and black. We like being the, check your jerseys to make sure they're the right color. The Al Davis spirit lives on in that team. The nice thing about having Mark Davis, though, is Mark Davis does make smarter front office decisions than his father. Mm-hmm. And he does want to win.
He also doesn't use an overhead projector.
That's true. Yeah, well, I mean, he's moved on with the times. But you got to remember, Mark Davis is a very, very smart man. And he's done some really, really big moves, including moving them to Las Vegas, which was a big move for them. It's going to be wonderful to see him, full time in the brand new stadium.
Yeah.
The problem is that what team are we going to get? Are we going to get John Gruden taking this team and taking them the next step and going to the winning record finally? Or are we, which they're capable of, or are we going to get the team that some weeks shows up and is the best team in the NFL and other weeks shows up and is just is a carbon. I'm not going to say as bad as the Jets and Jaguars, but we're going to have to say
they're on the Miami level.
Like the Miami level. Yeah, they're very questionable. And as a fan, it kind of sucks because I don't know. There's plenty of weeks where I tune in and I'm like, this should be a great week for the Raiders. Mm-hmm. And it's a horrible week. And then the next week, they're playing one of the top teams in the NFL, and they come out and they win by 20 points. And you're like, how is that even possible? How do you look like the greatest team ever to exist? And then the following week, you're playing the Houston Texans and losing by 30.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. So I'm hoping that comes around. I mean, Derek Carr, I'm happy with Derek Carr. I think that most people are.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if it don't work out for him, they've got the Tennessee Titans' greatest quarterback of all time, Marcus Mariota, as backup.
Oh, yeah.
And if that doesn't work, they've got the second greatest Bills quarterback of all time, Nathan Peterman.
The GOAT.
I just want to point this out, though. Mariota as a backup's not such a bad game plan.
No,
but
no.
Not as your starter. But here's the thing. Derek Carr makes great decisions. And when he doesn't, he owns up to him. So the nice part is we have a leader.
Yeah.
A lot of teams are missing that. A lot of teams are missing the guy who says it's my fault. When we lost games, even if it wasn't his fault, Derek Carr was like, it's my fault. And people were like, you're crazy. It's not your fault. He's like, no, it's my fault. I'm the leader. That's my fault. So I like that. I just think we need to build on that. And I think this year, the nice part is you're going to have a nice loud stadium. It's a nice destination. Mm-hmm. Raider fans, we've never cared where our ship is anchored, if you will. So I assume the black hole will show up in full force every Sunday that is in Las Vegas, and every Sunday period because they show up on road games as well. And I think that's going to play an advantage. The real big issues, obviously, is that Kansas City is still Kansas City.
Yeah,
let's be honest, they are still. And as much as I would like, and I really do believe that they are the dirtiest the dirtiest players in the game because they are. Like, you can't look at that team and what they did in the past few seasons and not go, hey, these guys are playing a level of football that's just kind of ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, the Raiders start off the season with the Ravens and Steelers back-to-back, so tough games right off the bat. But then they switch into the Dolphins, Chargers, Bears, Broncos, Eagles, Giants before playing the Chiefs. So they have a good stretch there of teams that they should just kind of dominate in between two hard games to start the season off because we don't know what Pittsburgh team's showing up. Mm-hmm. And by the way, week 2 is still time for Big Ben to be healthy.
Yes.
The thing is, though, it is in Pittsburgh, and usually the Raiders own.
They usually travel well when they come out to Pittsburgh.
So the Chiefs will be the first test, but the first time we play the Chiefs is at home. So that's good. Then you have the Bengals, Cowboys, Washington football team before the Chiefs again. And then you finish out and round out the season with the Browns, the Broncos, the Colts, and the Chargers. So the Raiders have a very favorable season. They have a couple hard games, followed by a couple games that a streak of games, 3 or 4 games that they should win, followed by a harder game, followed by a streak of 3 or 4 games they should win. Once again, though, as a Raiders fan, usually we'll win the hard games, and then we'll drop a bunch of these gimme games.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying they have the easiest schedule because they don't. You still have to play the Chiefs twice. We do not know, obviously with they're playing everybody in the AFC North. So that's a gambit alone.
Yep.
And then on top of that, I mean, we do have the abilities of playing the Chargers and the Broncos, which are in the division I know we're going to talk about in a minute because they are definitely the basement of the AFC West, let's be honest.
Pat?
Yeah. I definitely think the Raiders will be good. Not necessarily gangbusters, home run out of the park, but they'll do well. They'll contend. Looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, unless you have anything to say about the Raiders there, Ken?
No, I mean, the Raiders, you got to think about it like this. They are very much in the same vein of Miami.
Yeah.
That when they're on, and they're very, very good.
I'd say also the Falcons in the last couple of years, too.
Yeah, but I think that they do show more consistency than Atlanta has in past years.
True.
Like that's my one argument in that favor. I think that with the Raiders, if they stick to the game plan, that if they can show some more consistency, they're going to do a lot of damage. It just depends on what Gruden's game plan is going to be for every team moving forward, because if you're inconsistent in this division, you're not going to get anywhere because, like you lightly touched upon, Denver is not scaring anybody right now.
No.
The Chargers have a bona fide franchise quarterback for the first time in, I don't know how, well, since Phillip Rivers, but they lucked out in that because I was going to say, they have not had somebody that has really been this energetic about the team in a while, you would think, because with Phillip Rivers obviously transitioning over the past few years, he hasn't been the Phillip Rivers of old.
Right.
Justin Herbert has just re-energized his franchise, but is it enough that they can make some noise? And that's the kind of the question you have, because like I said, with this new franchise quarterback, it's going to be a whole different ball game in just how he plays. He plays a lot different than Rivers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because like you said, you got Herbert as the quarterback. You've got Austin Eckler as the starting running back. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Joshua Palmer as the starting wide receivers. And then you've got Jared Cook as the starting tight end. So not a bad offense.
On paper, they should be putting up 36 a game, legitimately. But will they? No.
I don't know if I would guarantee 36. I mean, they're definitely in a building mode.
Yeah.
Do I think not this season per se, but in seasons to come, I think the Chargers are going to be a very good team if they can keep it together and keep adding the pieces they've added.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that they have bad pieces. I just don't see them where they're yet. But they do have this to go off on the schedule. They open up against the Washington football team.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a one.
Then they take on the Dallas Cowboys.
Toss up.
That's a toss-up.
That's a 50-50.
Then they got the Chiefs and Raiders, so you got two tough divisional games. Then you have the Browns, who are arguably the best team in the AFC North, as we pointed out. Mm-hmm. Then you have the Ravens, who are arguably the second best team in the AFC North. Then you have the Patriots, who are arguably or definitely the second best team in the AFC East and could be having a good year, depending upon how the new quarterback goes. Then you have the Eagles, Vikings. Then you have the Steelers. Then you have the Broncos. Then the Bengals, Giants, Chiefs, Texans, Broncos, and they end the season in Las Vegas. So they have a pretty tough schedule in the beginning. In the middle, it kind of weakens out a little bit, but not horribly weak. And then they have a tough ending in the division because both their second games against the Chiefs and the Raiders come at the end of the season. And when you're beaten up and beaten down, that's not where you want to play those teams. Although, in between, they do get the Texans and the Broncos. So if they're on the bubble, they could make a push, I'm saying, for the Chargers.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for the Chargers, for sure. I mean, they've got a good team, should contend and win a couple of games, but just there's a lot of teams in there that are real good that I just think when push comes to shove and it comes down to that last 2 minutes, they're not going to be able to edge them out. But I think they'll contend.
Well, the one thing with the Chargers now with the new head coach and Brandon Staley, he's going to be definitely doing a lot of things different than Anthony Lynn, because I think that those moves that Lynn was doing was costing a lot of wins. And I think that when it came down late, that's where the Chargers would fall apart.
I agree. And like I said, I think they're a team on the rise. They're definitely a team on the build. They're definitely a team to keep your eye on. I just don't think that they are quite where the Chiefs and Raiders are currently. I just think those two teams on paper look a little better in the division. Mm-hmm. On the other side, the Broncos.
Hey.
And I don't know if do you have the depth chart for those Denver Broncos up?
Yes, I do. So Teddy Bridgewater is their starting quarterback. It was named yesterday, last couple days. You've got Melvin Gordon as their starting wide receiver, or starting running back, excuse me. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and KJ Hamler listed as their starting wide receivers. And then you've got Noah Fant listed as their starting tight end. And then they've got Andrew Beck listed as their starting fullback.
And as we saw last year, they have one of the most suspect defenses in the league. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, though. They also have a really weird fan base that love the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
And the Denver Broncos are like the AEW of the NFL, because the Broncos organization tends to fall into what the believers believe.
Yeah.
And here is the biggest problem of this season, because I'm going to rattle it off for you with the schedule. Here are the first 3 games. They're on the road against the New York Giants. They're on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then they come home to face the Jets. So they should start this season 3-0, because all 3 of those teams are, when you talk about sus, you've already heard us talk about 2 of them, and one of them we'll be talking about very shortly. But then here comes the test, because then they have the Ravens, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Browns, before finally getting the Washington football team. So, I mean, you have a 4 stretch of murderer's row of 4 of the best teams in the NFL, top half, I should say, teams. The teams that are in the top part of the division, and then in your division alone with the Raiders, and then you have the AFC North trifecta. It's a tough go for them. And then they have the Cowboys, Eagles, Chargers, Chiefs, finally, the Lions, the Bengals, the Raiders again, the Chargers, and then they end their season at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. And their only hope of winning that game is if the Chiefs have clinched the number 1 spot and they sit everybody.
No, that's facts. Like we talk about franchise quarterbacks, and like I say, if somebody's not there for a while, it feels like there's a brand new one. As you see, like Herbert's now there with the Chargers.
Yep.
Mahomes took over for Alex Smith, and that felt like a whole new franchise when he got put in there. Derek Carr has done wonders for the Raiders.
Look at Cleveland. How many years did Cleveland change their quarterback every year? It's been at least one for every year I've been alive.
Right. But to see like with Denver. Like I say,
Teddy Bridgewater.
You got Teddy Bridgewater coming in after Drew Lock was supposed to be the guy, after somebody else was supposed to be the guy, after somebody else was supposed to be the guy. They haven't had a franchise guy. Now, you can't even say Peyton was a franchise guy for him.
He came in.
Yeah, he came in.
He came in and he won. I mean, we'll give him credit.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You just said it. One of these things is not like the other. In that division, you have 3 teams who have solid quarterbacks, who have their franchise quarterback, and they're all doing well. I mean, obviously one is still building up with Herbert.
Yeah.
But still, he's on that path. Derek Carr's already there, and Patrick Mahomes is obviously there, okay? So, like, you're the one left out. You have a suspect defense, you have a suspect quarterback, and then the rest of your receiving core and your running backs and everything else are kind of, they're good, but they're not great.
No.
And you're facing down, even in your division, teams who are matching up against you wonderfully. Because even the other team that is in the lower part of the division, which I still think will have a winning record, is the Chargers. And they have a huge upside. They have some really good players. And then you have the Raiders and the Chiefs who, I mean, it speaks for themselves. Look at the teams they're fielding. And like I said, we're going to go to the Chiefs obviously next because they're your 2-time defending AFC champions.
Mm-hmm. Reigning, defending, semi-disputed.
Yeah, you can dispute it a little bit. But, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, listen, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I mean, I am a Raiders fan. I shouldn't be like, but I mean, let's be honest. Let's not say that the Chiefs have done this in the most upward way, but they've done it in the smart way. They have very talented players. They're very talented on offense. They're very talented on defense. And they're also very talented in getting in their opponent's heads. And it's worked out for them masterfully. Can it work for a 3rd season? We're going to find out. So, Pat, what's that depth chart looking like in Kansas City?
Yeah, so they, of course, got Patrick Mahomes listed as their starting quarterback, which I got to admit, I'm a little worried for Patrick. I heard he's allegedly fell short a couple hundred.
No.
You've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire as their starting running back, and then you've got Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, and then Byron Pringle as their starting wide receivers. You've still got Travis Kelce as their tight end, and then Michael Burton, listed as their starting fullback.
Of course, you have a defense that does not stop. Let's
No.
be honest. Their defense is as good as their offense.
Steve Spagnuolo has done just an amazing job as the DC down there.
And the Chiefs, schedule-wise, are lining up pretty good, but they have a tough schedule, but they're a tough team. They open the season against the Browns, but at home. They then take on the Ravens, then the Chargers, then the Eagles, then the Bills, the football team, the Titans, the Giants, the Packers, the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Broncos, then the Raiders again, then the Chargers again, then the Steelers, then the Bengals, and they finish out against the Broncos on the road, which should be an easy win for them. Once again, listen, I agree with you. The Raiders have given the blueprint to beat this team. And this year, we're going to see them go up against the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, all in the regular season.
Yeah.
So if all of those teams take that blueprint with the Raiders, who I'm going to go, one of my bold prediction for my team, I don't know if they're going to be the best, but I think they're going to put together and really blow people's minds by beating the Chiefs twice this season. Mm-hmm. Because we had the number last year, we beat them 1 out of 2, and we should have beat them 2 out of 2, and I don't think that they've lost that number. That's the one team that I'm really confident that they have the number of. Now, the Chargers, not as confident that the Raiders have the number fully. I think that they could split with them easily, and the Broncos it's just a foregone conclusion that they're probably going to be the basement dweller in this division. But I mean, the Chiefs, look at, man, they have a road to the Super Bowl again, possibly. But I think that this is going to be the hardest year for them to get to that road. Not because of just the schedule, but because I think the teams finally know who they're playing and what they're playing with. And I see the matchup that I'm really looking forward to, October 10th, and it's a night game against the Buffalo Bills. Because I think the Bills owe them a receipt.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm honestly saying it right now. I don't think that the Bills have been thinking about anything else since losing that game than to beat the Chiefs. And if they can go into Kansas City and hand the Chiefs their ass, I think that that's what the Bills are preparing for in the beginning of the season, in my opinion. And that could be the make or break game, by the way. Because if they go into Kansas City and they beat the Chiefs, and they beat the Chiefs handily, what's that going to do for the morale and the motivation? We also have to question the health of Patrick Mahomes. He showed a lot of bravery or stupidity, depending upon who you ask, in his decisions last year. He played injured 90% of that season.
Yeah.
And with some serious injuries that could have ended his career if they were aggravated.
Yeah.
Who knows if he's 100%? Because I know there's been some time, but you don't usually, like, the fact that he played on a broken leg.
Yep.
Did it heal properly? Did he even give it time to heal properly? It could have started healing improperly during the season. And we haven't heard any rumors that he had to go out and have any kind of surgeries or resets or anything like that, which probably would have been the smartest move. Because you can't tell me that leg healed properly when he kept going out into the field. That could be an issue. The first time he gets hit, it could be one of those situations where one of those Carson Palmer situations.
It's not out of the realm of thought. I mean, that's the one thing with Kansas City, and especially you touched on with Mahomes, is he takes a lot of risks, if we want to use a wrestling term, like Darby Allin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And that's a scary thing for your franchise quarterback because he's the guy, remember, when he took over, he completely makes you forget about the previous administration that was there because Alex Smith was winning games and taking them to the playoffs. We all forget about that with Patrick Mahomes. The Chargers have the same thing when Justin Herbert came in, making fans forget about Phillip Rivers. Hi, me. This is when you have that star quarterback, you need to make sure you protect and you keep upright at all times.
And the worst part about this is the coach is Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is notorious for not protecting his players.
Yeah,
notorious.
It's just one of those factors that if you're in that team, in that front office, you got to tell them, be safer about the ball. Sure, you might lose it down, but is it worth losing the season?
Well, once again, we're going to talk about the difference, and this is why I will never put Andy Reid into that great coach format that some people like to think that he's in. He ain't Bill Belichick. He ain't Mike Tomlin. He's not John Harbaugh. And I'm going to tell you why, because all those guys, you know what they have in common and what makes them great coaches? They will sit their star player if it means that he stays healthy for the bigger game. Mm-hmm. Andy Reid, throughout his career, whether it was in Philadelphia or now in Kansas City, will not make that decision. For whatever reason, he thinks he has to win every down.
Yeah.
And that's not how you win. And they could have lost Mahomes last season. It was a dumb bet, and it really didn't pay off for him. Really, in the end, did it? Because the Buccaneers took it to him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was definitely banged up going in that game. There's no question about that.
Oh, he got exposed. When you were on the field with greatness, he got exposed real quick. Mm-hmm. Like he thought that this was the Patriots team that he had beaten the year before with Tom Brady. No. This was the Tom Brady that was on the Revenge and F the World tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he came into that game to make you look bad. And, man, did Mahomes look horrible. That Super Bowl was probably Patrick Mahomes' worst game.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
He looked terrible in that game. And the stats go with it. Meanwhile, Brady's just shooting the lights out. Mm-hmm. So, once again, how's his confidence coming into this? And you can't judge by preseason because he barely played.
Yeah, preseason you can't do it, but this is going to be the question, too. And another factor we have to remember, all these guys have been signed long-term. The core of their team, for the most part, except Tyreek Hill?
I believe so, yeah.
How motivated are they going to be for coming back? Was that the sting of losing in the Super Bowl enough, or it's tough to get that winning mentality?
Better yet, how do they feel about taking those pay cuts to come back?
Yeah.
Because remember, they all took pay cuts so they could keep that super team alive.
That's another factor, too, because at the end of the day, it's still a business.
Meanwhile, all these guys are signing record contracts. And a guy like Tyreek Hill has still got another year that he signed a lower amount on, and he could be playing somewhere else for way more money.
Yeah.
So I stayed here to win a Super Bowl. We didn't win, and now I'm here for another season making not league minimum, but an average for somebody at my position instead of making Julio Jones money. Mm-hmm. And that's you can't tell me that doesn't weigh on a player, especially when you're going against the ticking of the clock on age. Because no matter what, when you start that career, that clock starts to tick. Mm-hmm. And how many ticks do you really have to make the big money?
And football, that's one of the most disposable contracts of all time. So you get your money up front quick, and you get.
And I agree with winning titles. Mm-hmm. I agree with taking a pay cut to win a title. I'm not even going to. No harm in that. But when you came up short against old man Brady and the old man Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to be this hot young team that's unstoppable. And think about it, that Buccaneers team is one of the oldest teams to win.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying nothing against Tom Brady, proof of which, and we'll talk about it later, is the greatest quarterback of all time. in my opinion. People can argue and fight, and usually it's just people that just don't like to admit what we all know. And he proved it once again.
Yeah.
And he's having fun because he had something to prove. He came and proved it. He had fun. He's back again. He's still got something to prove. So this team, once again, is facing down. And remember those memes of Mahomes being carried in the arms of Daddy Brady.
True.
And that's got to be in your mind. And what are you going to do with it? We have not seen Patrick Mahomes face that adversity. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
And we haven't seen that yet until now. And now he's got to come back in, not the dominant quarterback, not the hot hand quarterback, but the guy who lost a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's going to be the big factor is how do you come back, especially when other teams around you have gotten better. Cleveland, Buffalo, and the teams that you would got to really watch in your own division. Las Vegas, the Chargers are breathing down your neck. I mean, granted, they're not there yet, but they're on the upswing.
Oh, yeah.
This is all factors that are going to play because, and especially in a league that is copycat, everybody's seeing how you're doing it, and everybody's figuring out a way to do it better.
Yeah. And all you have to do is be smash mouth against them.
Yeah.
If you meet the bully and bully the bully, you'll win. That's what Las Vegas shows.
I was like, Christ, the Patriots held the Chiefs in check for a bit, and I'm sitting there watching that game go screaming, you got to score. Defense is only going to be able to hold them for so long, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Also, perfect example. Look at the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, when you have a team full of veterans like Tampa Bay, Kansas City tried to fight with them, tried to argue, and look at what they did. The veterans said, come on. Just go back to the line. Ignore the kids.
Yeah.
Let them try to fight. And every time, guess who got the flag? Kansas City.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody was like, oh, they rigged it for Brady. No. They tried to sucker them in like they suckered everybody else in, but the old vets sat back and went, we don't want any part of it. Go ahead and get the flag. Because if you act out and show your ass and we don't do anything back, they're not going to see us do anything. They're going to see you. They're going to flag you, and that's what they did. I mean, even and to the credit of guys who are hotheads like Antonio Brown, AB even let the one corner there just jaw jack himself into like 3 flags.
Yeah,
because he was jaw jacking and shoving on him, and AB, who usually would react, is just like, get out of my face, man. And I at one point in jokes where he even pointed to his ring finger and just kind of was like, I'm putting a ring on this finger, my guy.
Yeah,
I don't care. You can say whatever you want. You're better than me. That's right. Remember that when I put this ring on.
He knew it, and that's the one thing. Kansas City got outclassed in that Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no question about it. They got served humble pie. It's going to be a question of how they bounce back this year.
Yeah.
That's the biggest factor. So that being said, Pat, how you got this division shaping up?
I think it's going to stay the same as it was. Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, but the records for the Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos will improve. The Chiefs will come back down. I don't think they're necessarily going to go 14-2 again this year.
I'm going to agree with Pad. I'm going to say that I think the Chiefs are still going to win, but I don't think they're going to be only 2 games of loss. I think that you're going to see them more than likely they'll be 13-4, possibly 12-5, depending upon how hard teams take it to them. They do have a tougher schedule. I think the Raiders are going to come up to at least win 9 or 10 games. So I do think it'll be a winning season. I think that the Chargers are going to get to at least 8 games, if not more. And the Broncos, believe it or not, looking at their schedule when we were talking about it, I really think they're going to win 4 or 5 games, which is pretty good for them. I think that if they do the right things and they continue in the direction they're going, and especially since they have a 3-game, they could start the season 3-0 easy.
Yeah.
Without much of an effort. I really feel like they can start building in the right direction. My only problem there is they don't have a quarterback yet, and the receiving core is good, but can Teddy Bridgewater get them the ball is the biggest question. And that defense, which used to be great, is kind of suspect now. And we saw big points get put up against the Broncos last year. So if they can harden down their defense and they can move it up, I think they could also move up a little bit as well and get to that 5-6 games. I don't think that they'll win above 8 games, but I think that they'll have like 5 or 6 victories. If they can put things together, they need a quarterback. They need to either draft themselves a quarterback, or they're a great team if things go well with investigations and stuff, that they might also be thinking about Deshaun as well.
Yeah.
If you bring in a good quarterback, that team will move up a little bit. Not saying this season, but in the future. But yeah, I think that it's the Chiefs to lose still. I do think the Raiders are going to nip at their heels a little bit. And I think as a Raiders fan, and I'm probably dooming my team because I know better than to say it, I really do believe that they're going to win 9 or 10 games this season.
I've got Kansas City going 13-4. I think
that's fair.
Yeah, I could definitely see them going 12-5. Right now, I mean, they are the cream of the crop in the AFC. But It's not to say that that's going to guarantee you a Super Bowl trip. It's not guaranteeing anything. Just right now as we record, they're playing at a high level. Everybody is allegedly healthy. So until somebody really punches them in the mouth, we're not going to see anything change. I do fully think that's going to happen. I don't doubt the Raiders sweeping them, to be honest with you, because they play them tough. It just depends on the other teams in this league that are going to face them that are in that echelon. Cleveland, Buffalo, Baltimore, Tennessee. When they have to start facing those types of teams, how they react, that's going to be the big factor. And for Kansas City, we always talk about Super Bowl hangovers. How is theirs going to be that this first time that they have been on easy street, they got kicked to Skid Row? How do they bounce back? Because they got outsmarted and outclassed in that Super Bowl. And that was Tom Brady putting on a masterful performance. I'm saying this as a Bills fan. He schooled them, and he schooled them very, very badly.
Absolutely.
But you can't take anything away from them. They still should win this division outright. I have the Vegas going 9-8, and I think that's a fair. I think they're going to be the most consistent team of inconsistency. But I think when they're on, I could definitely see them putting some games together. It just depends on the effort each week in and out, and I think that we've already established that. But I think that they're in a better position than Miami because they have more stability in the core players to get that consistency. I have the Chargers going right around that 8-9, 7-10 record. It just depends on, with the new coaching staff, can they get more out of Herbert and more out of that offense and not make those bad decisions late that unfortunately we saw with the previous regime. If they can do that and fix that, this franchise has got a bigger upside. But they got to be a little better on those calls. In Denver, I see going 5-12. Teddy Bridgewater doesn't move the needle for me. And until they get a franchise guy there, this is what the future is going to hold for him.
Okay, since coach isn't here, I'm gonna make a bold prediction for my team. Though I will say this: if they can figure out consistency, the Raiders do have a shot at being possibly the top team in the AFC.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that.
If they can find consistency.
Sure.
That's a big if, so I don't think it's going to happen. When you ask me likelihoods, if you're talking lock or leap, that's a major leap because that's just not there. If they could, it's a team that could be super dangerous. But I don't know if they have that consistency in them yet. And you never know. Maybe Coach Gruden's gotten in their heads. Maybe Derek Carr is moving to that next level. It'd be interesting to see. But I do think that I think those were all good. And now going into playoff pictures.
Yes.
I feel like it's the AFC to me in a lot of ways is harder to pick the winners.
Sure.
But it's easier to pick the teams.
Yes.
Yes.
Because there is a big, as Pat pointed out earlier, there's a big drop when you go from the top tier teams to the next tier teams. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I'm going to say, obviously in the AFC West, and it pains me to say it, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win that.
Yep.
And the AFC, we'll go with the AFC South next. I think the Titans, there's no way I don't think the Titans walk away with that one. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you're the best. Not only do you have a decent team together this year, but you're the team that's, there's no way. I do think that the Bills are going to pretty much easily take out the AFC East once again. The Patriots are still on the rise. I mean, I think the Patriots will do better than they did last year. However, I don't think that with the new kid, they're going to be out the box the greatest thing, unless he has the greatest performance of a rookie ever.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that in this day and age in the NFL. And then you have the North, and the North is the hardest one. And we all pick Cleveland. Sorry, so I'm going to stick with Cleveland to win the division. But I could see the Ravens and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, depending upon which one is going to the playoffs. But I'm going to say that the Ravens will make the playoffs, and I'm actually going to pick the Patriots to make the second team.
Okay,
my man.
So I'm actually going to say the AFC East is going to send two teams because even though they have two, first of all, you got to remember that division has 4 easy wins for those two teams.
Yeah,
between the two of them, and then on top of that, with schedules and everything, I think the Patriots should. When we were talking about it earlier, probably get 10 wins. I think the AFC North is such a tough division that it's going to be hard for the two teams in the bottom, which would be – and then, by the way, in their division, the bottom would be the winning team everywhere else. With Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, to get to that 10 wins is going to be a dogfight. So, I could really see the pit. So, I'm going to pick the playoff picture with the wild card teams being the Patriots as the last seed, the Ravens as the top seed wild card. And then we are going to have, I think the number 1 team will still be the Chiefs, unfortunately. I hate saying it. Mm-hmm. The number 2 seed will probably be the Buffalo Bills. And then rounding that out will be the Tennessee Titans. And did I miss one team?
Cleveland.
In Cleveland. So there you go. That's how I look at it.
I agree with every team Rich picked there. You know, we all obviously picked the same teams to win the divisions for the 4 divisions, you know, Buffalo, Cleveland, Tennessee, and then the Chiefs. I think looking at, you know, the other teams for the North, you know, I think Baltimore will be able to make it in. Pittsburgh, probably not. Like I said before, Ben's just a little too old, a little too worn down, doesn't really have it. And Joe Burrow, we don't necessarily know what we're going to get out of him. The AFC South, it's Tennessee's game to lose because if Indy, you don't know what you're going to get, and then there's 50 feet of crap. And then you look at the AFC West, obviously Kansas City's going to make it out there. Vegas will make it contend, but I think it'll come down to the end of the year and just some scheduling stuff because I think at the end of the day, the Patriots will make it in as the other wild card spot. They won't make a deep run. They might squeak out a win on a fluke or something bizarre happening during the game like we've seen the last couple of years. I don't expect a deep run out of them. I'm not sitting here going pencil them in as Super Bowl champs. But I think there's a real chance that they can work some magic and make the playoffs because a lot of starters that they lost last year because of COVID and opting out of the year are back on defense. I know Stephon Gilmore is out the first 6 games of the year with a quad injury, but they've got more than enough guys who are willing to step up at that cornerback position, so that defense should be back on point. The offense should be on point. It's just, you know, getting Mac Jones's feet wet. So I agree with all the teams Rich picked.
So for my one, Kansas City, I think it's the number 1 seed. I think that until otherwise, that is the place I'm picking them. Number 2 seed is going to be the Tennessee Titans.
Wow.
That I think that they're going to sneak in there just ahead of Cleveland for the 3rd seed. So I think it's going to be a game difference between those two. 4th seed is going to be Buffalo, like we touched upon. I think they're going to be the one with the least amount of wins of all the division champions. And then for the wild cards, I think the 2 come out of the AFC North again. I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh are going to do it. I think Pittsburgh is going to get out to a hot start early and kind of go in there on fumes.
Don't get me wrong. I think there's going to be a dogfight for that final wild card.
Yeah,
this is going to be a great season for that because I think the Raiders will vie for that. I think Pittsburgh's vying for that. The Patriots are vying for that. And then I think there could be 1 or 2 shock teams
Colts
as well.
Might
the
get
Colts
in there.
might be vying. So there's going to be 1 or 2 shock teams in the AFC. I think there's going to be a dogfight coming into the end of the season, which for fans, that means awesome things.
Yes.
As far as the playoff picture, though, and we're not going to go through you know what? You're very humble. But I'm going to say this. I honestly think, looking at paper, I think Cleveland's flaw is they're still young. There's not enough experience there, and I think that's why they won't make it to the Super Bowl. They won't be AFC champions. I think they'll make it in the playoffs. I think they might even go to the AFC championship game, possibly, depending upon matchups. Kansas City's always the threat, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And then you, like I said, you have the Bills. And in my part, I'm with Pat. I don't think the Patriots are going to make it deep. I do think the Patriots will make the bubble, just because I think they're going to fight hard. And if Mac Jones is even slightly good, they could make a run. Because let's be honest, Bill Belichick has done more miracles with less talent, and this kid does have a good upside. But with that being said, believe it or not, I'm actually going to pick the right, the wrongs. I think the Bills are going to the Super Bowl.
God bless you.
And I know you're not going to pick your own team, or you may, but and here's why. I really think the turning point on October 10th is coming. I really think that they have built everything to punch them in the mouth. If they can punch Kansas City in the mouth in Kansas City, I think that will be the greatest ego boost that a team has ever experienced. And then you're going to witness them just go into another space. I think they have the talent. They're young, they're fast, and they're talented. And they seem to have decent coaching behind them. Also, let's be honest, the one X factor that we're not talking about with the Bills is they are literally playing to stay in Western New York. Like, am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're right.
They are literally,
you're
because the players in the team seem to love Western New York. Being from upstate New York, I don't know
Home
why.
Depot and Lowe's also love them in New York.
Yes, but you know what I mean? Being from upstate New York, I have zero clue why. I'm not going to pretend like I know. But they really are playing to stay there. And I think that when you add that X factor in with a good team that almost got there and they've seen where they need to fix, I really believe, and I know it's going to be hard for Pat to even pick them, but I really believe the Bills could squeak out of this. I do not see Kansas City three-peating. As decent of a team as they are, I really think that there's going to be confidence issues after last season and that abysmal Super Bowl showing.
Pat?
Rich is right. It's hard for me to pick just because for me, I look at the Chiefs kind of in the same light that the Golden State Warriors were in recently. Made a lot of runs, made a lot of finals appearances, but inevitably, because of other factors, obviously, the gas just ran out. And the wheels fell off. Playing the NFL is a little harder than playing the NBA, physically and just the physical demands. I think Kansas City might be on the cusp of the Golden State Warriors, where look at it on paper. Both teams revolutionized their sports in the way the offense is played. With everything Steph Curry and Klay Thompson did and Kevin Durant when he went there, you can flip it on the other side to Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes being a literal video game, and Travis Kelce. But I think the gas is, the low gas meters showing on the dashboard of that car. I think they'll obviously make a run during the regular season and they'll make a run during the playoffs. But I think when it comes time for the clock to hit triple zeros, that gas meter will be running on empty. It'll be empty and won't have come close. And I think the Bills can ultimately do it because the Bills showed them last year that they can hang with them. That if it weren't for a couple of bad instances, they would have had them. And I think they can do it.
I'm checking Pat's Kool-Aid right now.
I'm just going to say, I'm surprised. He shocked me with his pick too, but I'm going to point it out. I think it is a logical pick. I think when you add in all the things, believe it or not, and I'm not saying it's going to happen because obviously the games are played on the field.
Absolutely.
Anything can happen. As a matter of fact, the teams that the Jacksonville Jaguars could win. It's less likely. I might put some money on it because I could win a lot of money that way. And if I only lose $10 to win 1,000, that's fine. I'm just saying, if you're really putting it down, the Bills are on that cusp. And the one thing that kept them from being there for years was the Patriots. And the Patriots are rebuilding right now.
Yeah, and just running through the teams I picked. I mentioned Buffalo. Cleveland, I think, could hang with them for maybe all of a half. Mm-hmm. After that, the gas had just run out. Tennessee, same thing. They got the offense. Defense, not so much. Then you've got the Ravens. Again, we saw that last year. They can hang with them, but ultimately not at the end of the day. Patriots, I think, could because they hung with them for a good portion of that game last year, and that was with them missing double-digit starting guys on the defense, and because that offense was god-fucking awful, it was the worst offense I've ever seen that team put out, they couldn't score a goddamn thing. Now, could they hang with Kansas City this year? Maybe. I don't know. Well, I haven't really seen that team on offense this year. But it would require a Cinderella-like run for them to get to the AFC Championship game to face the Chiefs. And do I think that's going to happen? I don't think so.
Yeah. Pat, I appreciate you. I really do. So, for my picks, I think...
He's picking the Dolphins.
Oh, God, no.
Well, we already know his playoff teams.
Yeah, you already know my playoff teams. I would love to say Buffalo is going to get there, and I hope that you guys are right. But until they can show something with the run, I don't think they get over the hump just yet, unless they get some diamond in the rough that shows up. Because that's the one thing that worries me with this team is when they got to kill time on the ball, they don't have that option. So I am picking for my AFC final Tennessee and Cleveland.
Wow. Okay.
Good matchup.
And I think that as crazy as this sounds, the Browns have learned how to put it together.
Good God Almighty.
And I think the Browns are going to punch their way to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a 28-24 game. I think that they are going to pull some Hail Mary shenanigans to get the win from Tennessee because I don't think Kansas City gets there. I think they get bounced. Not going to say first round, but they do get bounced. I think this is going to be the year they get punched in the mouth pretty bad by one of the four teams that we mentioned. The Bills, like I say, unless they can stop the run, they're going to struggle. And if they have to come against Tennessee in the first round or in the playoffs, I think that is going to be the dagger in them because if they can't put it together, they're going to struggle. I hope I'm wrong as a fan, but I'm being very honest about this. But I think Cleveland has got it all put together. And I think as long as they take from what happened last year into this season, I think they're going to be a scary team to face. And if OBJ can keep it in check, they're going to be even scarier. If not, I agree with what Rich said way back when, they're going to ship his ass out quick. Because this team is built to win now, and I think they understand that window is going to be closing. So I'm taking Cleveland to get to the Super Bowl.
I can see where you're saying. Like I said, I just don't know if that team and where they fell apart last year, I don't know if they're above that again, and the youth, and I don't know if they're mature enough, if you will. I think that I honestly think that you have that problem with Cleveland, but they're a great team, and I think they're going to be there at the end of the season. So, I mean, it's very likely. My big X factor with Tennessee, though, is still the quarterback situation. I know we just were talking about how, you don't have to be good to throw the ball to Julio Jones, but at the end of the day, in the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl, you do have to be decent.
Yeah.
I mean, we make jokes about alleged bad quarterbacks who have made it to the Super Bowl, but if you think about some of those quarterbacks, they weren't that atrocious.
No.
I mean, Trent Dilfer was serviceable. I don't know if Ryan Tannehill is that. And if what happened last season happens and people stop Derrick Henry, they're done. And that you're still, even though adding Julio Jones, I think that they're still a one-trick pony. I mean, it makes them better in their division, but I think teams, all they have to do is stop that run and just clamp down Julio as best as possible, and then you can expose Tannehill's arm. And if Tannehill comes up over short, all you have to do is get a couple picks from and it's over.
Yeah, it's going to be the big X factor with him, but I think that they could make that run, but it just depends on how much teams can shut down the dual threat. It's not to say they can't, because I fully see some teams doing it, but when we get in that playoff time, if Tennessee has learned anything from getting there, the one thing that they desperately needed was a true number one to step over the game for the wide receiver position. They haven't had that.
But I just want to point out before we end the segment that the Patriots fan and the Raiders fan, so both AFC fans, pick the team that the person who is a fan of won't pick.
Yeah.
to win to go to the Super Bowl. Sorry, we haven't picked our winner yet.
I'm just putting that bad karma out there.
Yeah.
Well, but you know what? Honestly, the logic is there, though. I mean, and like I said, I think for whatever reason they like playing in Western New York, and I really think if the Bills can put it together and make it to a Super Bowl, they'll get whatever they want.
Oh, absolutely. Like I say, it's the two key factors that, as we're recording right now, I haven't seen them improve. Now, if they can get a diamond in the rough and get a running game going, it's a whole different ballgame. But if they're still letting up the big plays over the middle and they can't stop a run, and I haven't seen that this preseason, that's the big thing. They have not made those second half adjustments as we talk about. Until you do that, you're going to do the same thing you did last season. Now, last season they got far, but is it enough to get over the hump?
Like I said, there's a lot involved, and I think we all have solid picks. I think, like I said, we all picked the same teams to win the division.
Yeah,
at the
absolutely.
End of the day, and we were all pretty much 2 out of 3 of us were in agreement who was going to make it as wild card teams and everything. But I really do think that it's going to be a fun year for NFL fans.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I think there's going to be a dogfight for that last wild card spot. And I think it's going to be, we mentioned there's about 4 or 5 teams to keep your eyes out for. And I'm going to be honest, on any of those teams, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs is not a good matchup for Kansas City.
Facts.
So if you have, and even the Patriots, so whether it's the Patriots, the Raiders, the Steelers, or Cincinnati, or insert whoever can, even the Colts. The Colts would be the best matchup for them. But any of those 4 teams, if they are fighting for that 6th spot, and they have to come up against Kansas City in round 1, which would be the way, because we all picked them to be the number 1 seed, it could be a rough, you could see them exit the first round.
Yeah.
Because all of those teams have the capability of dialing up that number and beating them.
Yeah, they're absolutely not a lock to get there. And that's the beauty of the football with the parity, because every team has gotten better, and just depends on who really made the best adjustments to get forward. That's going to be the question we got asked this offseason. So that being said, we gave you our breakdown of the AFC, but fear not, because when we come back from break, we're going to be talking everything in the NFC. So definitely hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod, and give us your picks for the AFC, South, West, and Division. We want to hear them. We're going to be right back.
Do not adjust your dial, or your phone, your watch, or whatever the heck you're using to listen to the awesome podcast you're currently listening to. I am the Duke of Nerds, Tyler Mack, and I am here to tell you that being a nerd can be a bit overwhelming, especially after 30. Life moves pretty fast in our nerd culture, and if you don't take the time to notice things, you miss out. That's why I'm here. As your Duke of Nerds, I am charged with educating, enlightening, and entertaining you on all things nerdy. I do it by running the 30 to Nerdy podcast. 30 to Nerdy is a Badcast company production and currently playing wherever you cast your pod. Follow along each episode using the hashtag 30andNerdyPod and check out what all is going on at 30anddirtypodcast.com. Whether it's DC, Marvel, comics, or video games, I have got you covered. So tune in now. Cheers to you, nerds.
Coming back on the NFL preview edition of the ODPH podcast. Last segments, we've talked the AFC. Now let's go to the NFC, kicking off in the Eastern Conference.
We can just skip this. Nobody roots for this division anyway.
Yeah. The East Division is not fun. I can't even call it a conference. It's just,
Every team finished below 500 last year. Enough said.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think they should be booted out of the league, and we should just replace them with the top college football teams because it'd probably be better.
Yeah. So the NFC East, you had the Washington football team win the division with a record of 7-9. For those of you not good at math, that's a win percentage of .438. The Giants finished in second place with a record of 6-10. Again, those of you not good at math, that's a win percentage of .375. The Dallas Cowboys finished in third place with a record of 6-10. Again, win record percentage of .375. And the Philadelphia Eagles finished in last place with a record of 4-11-1, with the win percentage being .281. This division fucking sucks.
Rich, your thoughts?
Oh, man, of course. I don't even know where to start here. Okay, so first of all, you said it all. The team that went to the playoffs last year shouldn't have gone to the playoffs because they didn't even have a winning record. There should be a rule against that, by the way. Because we could have gotten a better team in there. But anyways, I digress. So you have the football team, which is as mismanaged as any team, including the Texans.
But they got Fitzmagic.
Eventually, as you see, the magic always wears off at some point. You have the New York Football Giants, who, if Coach was here, he'd still have disdain for them, even though he loves them and goes hard for them. But let's be honest, the Giants, they suck.
Yep.
The Eagles are coached badly, managed badly, and they play badly. And they got rid of their best players for other players and then tried to... The drama there is as bad as anywhere
Eagles'
else.
Super Bowl win was done on luck and a trick play.
Yeah, and on top of all of that, they got off of the horse that took them there and then tried to... It's garbage. Let's be honest. There's so much drama. And then that leaves the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
Who should be good, but then you look at how they did last year. Now,
Granted, no Dak.
No Dak, but they went 6-10.
Right. In that division, they should have gone at least more than that.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible division. This is possibly the worst division in football. And we talked about the AFC South already. This right here, folks, is possibly the worst division in football.
Yeah, the Washington football team with a record of 7-9 for the AFC would have put them in third place in every division in the AFC, and not making the playoffs.
What can you really say about this division that hasn't already been said? This is by far and away the worst one in all of the NFL.
Can we just institute the rule that whoever makes the college football playoff gets relegated to the NFL?
You would have to think so because of how lopsided this whole division is, and I mean whole division because.
Well, and I know, granted, that I might have this opinion because of where we live in the New York State area. But you hear people, and especially with not just Giants fans, but the Cowboys fans who are in the area and the Eagles fans who are in there, just talk about how great this division is. And, this is the premier division. They're like, you get that Cowboys Giants game on Sunday. Dude, you all finished below 500.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the truth that needs to be said, and it's been needed to be said for 20 plus years. This has not been the premier division in football since the 1990s. Mm-hmm. Okay? Since the last time that the Cowboys were great. Yes, in between there, people are going to point out that the Eagles have won a Super Bowl and that the Giants have won a couple Super Bowls. I agree. I'm agreeing with you, Pat. But think about it. When they won and made the playoffs, they were the best team in a crap division. It's just like saying that right now the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South, because we already went over all the AFC teams, is the greatest team of all. Well, no, they're just the best team in a crap division. And I'm not saying that they're a horrible team. They're definitely better than every team in this division.
Yeah.
Period. So I don't want to hear that. Listen, man, when the Giants were winning, albeit by luck and trick plays, and same with the Eagles, they did so because they were the best team, finishing with a record of 10-6. Again, and the nearest team to them in their division was 7-9. It doesn't get better. There hasn't been two teams to make the playoffs in the AFC or the NFC, in over a decade. Bottom line.
You're not wrong because this division, honestly, on paper, it should be Dallas's by a long shot.
I'll say Dallas should be in the Tennessee Titans position.
Absolutely.
With like it's their division to lose.
So the one problem you have is with Mike McCarthy, and I thought things would be different in Dallas, and sadly I was wrong. He still can't put a defense together.
Nope.
And that is the one thing that will hinder this team for long term. I mean, Micah Parsons was a great draft pick for him. So I'm not faulting him. They were addressing needs this draft, which is good. But they really should be running away with this division. I understand last season Dak got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So when you lose your quarterback, you lose your quarterback. I get that. But this division is so bad they still should have ran with
Exactly,
it.
that's my problem. This division is so bad that the rest of that team should have picked up the slack and still easily won this division. I mean, this is not a good division. When the Washington football team makes the playoffs sub 500, and they don't even have a name for their damn team, that tells you all you need to know about this division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you look at Dallas, and okay, Dak went down. You still had Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, who are pretty goddamn good in their own right.
Yeah.
So you should have picked up the ball and ran. Now, let's not forget, they looking at the thing, they finished below the New York Giants, who lost their running back in Saquon Barkley.
Arguably the best running back in the league behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and then their receiving core was nothing to write home about. And the Eagles, Christ knows what the hell they're going to show up with on a Sunday. You know, like I said, they won their Super Bowl on luck and a trick play.
The best part about that is the Eagles don't even know what they're going to show up with. The organization themselves don't know. They don't know who's going to be quarterback, receiver. Shit, I might even be the quarterback of that team by the end of the season.
The only thing they know is how to mess up the Giants and ruin them. They play better. They play the best heels to the Giants, bar none.
And then Washington made it to the playoffs, and to quote Conor McGregor, they had a quarterback that I went, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. It is just such a messy situation down there. Oh. Like, you can't really look at this division and say with any confidence anything really good. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, it is what it is. Dallas, listen, until your defense shows up on a Sunday and really shuts something down, listen, you should have this division outright. You should have 6 wins easy.
Can we just say that we're going to pick Dallas to win the division and skip past this?
Yeah.
Because I quite honestly, I don't want to break down all these teams because they're just bad. Dallas should win on paper by a long shot. We don't even know technically who's going to be the quarterback in Philadelphia because even though they've announced a starter, that could change by week 2, we know. The Giants...
The Eagles also have like 3 starting quarterbacks on their roster.
Yeah, exactly. The Giants... healthy Saquon Barkley is all they can hope for. Mm-hmm. And that's not saying much because they don't have an offensive line.
Exactly. He's doing what Barry Sanders was doing in Detroit, but it was a lot less.
Saquon Barkley's best hope is not to sign a new deal and to go somewhere else when his current contract's up, I think next season or the season after.
Something like that,
Buffalo. I don't care where he goes. Anywhere's got to be better than New York.
Buffalo.
I would love to see him in Las Vegas, but that's just because I'm a greedy fan.
You'd be a greedy fan.
I could use another top tier running back, but any team could. The only team that shouldn't be in the running, 2 teams that shouldn't be in the running are the Dallas Cowboys. Currently, and of course the Tennessee Titans. Everybody else should be in the Saquon Barkley business.
No, absolutely. Okay? No, you're completely right about that.
So that's the only shining part for the New York Giants. And the Washington football team, are you kidding me? Like, really?
Fitzmagic.
Yeah, and that's just, like, let's be honest. Like there is no way you can convince me that any of these teams should be in the NFL, with the exception, on paper, offensively, for the Dallas Cowboys, because they ain't got a defense.
So I guess we can kind of just sum this up very quickly. For me, Dallas, I have going 9-8 because I think they should sweep this division. I think their offense is that good.
And you're giving them 3 more games on top of it?
I'm going to give them 3 more games because I think if this offense is clicking, they can actually do some stuff. That's honest, but I don't see them going any further because this defense needs to show me something because I don't see it when I watch them. But I think they can squeak up enough. Okay, Giants, I got to go 7-10. Because I think Joe Judge is doing a lot. But like you touched upon, their offensive line is garbage. Daniel Jones is not the answer.
Danny Dimes, baby.
Seriously, they could use a massive upgrade to really push this team over the edge. I mean, you take a look. I mean, yeah, the Giants did do some addressing in the draft and offseason by getting Kenny Galloway and Kadarius Toney as wide receivers. But is it really enough when your biggest need was your offensive line? Like, I'm sorry. Like, they played solid. Like, sure, you played solid at times, but is it enough to win that division? I don't think so. Philly is a mess. We can all agree upon that.
The fact that you have Jalen Hurts, Gardner Minshew II, and Joe Flacco on your roster, just proves that.
Exactly. But you have Devontae Smith, who I think is going to be a star. And I think if you're looking for a fantasy sleeper, he's the guy. Because, seriously, who else is there to throw to in Philly? Nobody. So somebody's got to catch a ball.
Yeah.
So it's going to be him. Washington, listen, Fitzmagic is over and done with. The trick has already been played out. You can find it on the internet. It's over. It's a wrap. Listen, I got them going 4-13. So
I'm going to agree with everything you said, except for that 9 wins for the Cowboys. Because I'm trying to search their schedule. I'm going to do this due diligence to find 3 wins outside the division. We're going to surmise that they're going to, run the division. Opening week, they play the Buccaneers.
yeah,
that ain't
not,
a win.
They're not winning that one.
Next week, they play the Chargers. That ain't a win.
I'll say maybe. I will say maybe.
Give them maybe?
I'll
Okay,
give
then they
maybe.
have the Eagles, so that's a win because it's division.
Yep.
Then they have the Panthers. You could say that could be a win. I'll give them that. Then they have the Giants. That's obviously in division, so that's a win. We have the Patriots.
They ain't
That's
winning
not
that
a
one.
win. They have the Vikings next.
That could be.
That's a possibility.
So that's my three.
possibility.
That'll
So
say that's
that's
my
your three. Well, then they have the Broncos, which I would give them as a win. They have the Falcons, which depending upon which team shows up this year, And then after that, there's the Raiders, the Saints, and I'm talking non-division, the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's what I said. So that's my 3 that I'm figuring in with that. Because I think they sweep the division outright. They should. I know we have Dallas fans that listen here, and this is what I'm telling you. Your team is that good on offense, you should be able to squeak 3 wins out. You shouldn't.
Listen, I'm going to give a special shout out. I love you, Dre, but the Cowboys ain't winning shit. They'll win the division because this is a horrible division. Just admit it because that's it. That's all we got.
Yeah.
That's all you got there. I mean, let's be honest. This is not a great team. The reason they're going to come up with 6 of their wins is because they're going to beat teams that are subpar in their own division, and then you're going to pick up 3 wins against teams that are on the cusp.
Yeah.
Because I don't see them beating the I honestly don't see them beating the Chargers. I don't think they'll beat I think they'll start 0-2 because I don't see them beating the Buccaneers. I don't see them beating the Chargers. And I don't see them beating the Raiders. I could believe that there is still 3 games out there that we already discussed that they could win. Mm-hmm. So I will give you that. You have won me over because there's enough teams on the cusp.
Yeah, there's enough
that
you could coin flip and it could happen.
But I think they're going to start 0-2 before their first division game that they'll win because I think the Chargers are too youthful and they're too fast to go up against a non-defensive having team. And let's be honest, the Buccaneers are just going to carve people up.
Buccaneers are going to put up maybe 41 the first night.
Dude. And it's going to be the
First
high.
night, that's going to be in the first half.
Think about it. That's the first game of the season. That's the game where they raise the banner. That's the game where they get rings. That team's going to be amped to the gills.
I'm sorry, like I said, that is going to be. I don't know the point spread top of my head yet, but I can see that being a lock.
Stadium's going to be jammed to the nines, unlike it was in the Super Bowl.
It's going to be loud. It's going to be obnoxious, and it
Standing
deserves to
room
be.
only.
It deserves to be. And Tom Brady is. I'm going to go on there. I do not remember, and I could be wrong, of Tom Brady losing the opening game after winning a Super Bowl.
I don't think he has.
I do not think if we're looking for that stat, you'd have to go way back because I do not think that he has ever won or ever lost the first game of a season coming off of a Super Bowl win.
Pad's on that right now.
Pad is on it, so let's hopefully we can find that out. But going back to it, the Giants are just trash. And I'm sorry, we live in New York State, so we have to hear a lot of Giants fans. They are trash.
Yeah, there's nothing really you can say about it. I mean, they are trying to rebuild. And listen, I'm
going to say it with confidence, and if it is wrong, just message us. You can even do it to me at 3FatNerdsPod on Twitter. I don't mind if I'm wrong. I'm just saying, in memory, I don't remember him losing a first game.
Well, that's the whole point. He's going to come in with so much emotion. Like, I honestly feared any team that was facing him. I thought it was going to be the Bills, to be honest with you. But the fact that it was Dallas, it's like, well, we'll see what they got. But honestly, Dallas is going to really have to show something if they really are going to be the outright contenders in this division because there really is not a lot to talk about. Joe Judge is doing a good thing with the Giants, but how much can you really do when you have Daniel Jones as your quarterback? I'm sorry. He's not the guy.
They have one offensive weapon.
Yeah.
And Saquon Barkley, and they have no line.
Yeah. And he's got to stay on the field healthy for a season.
And unfortunately, he's not going to probably be healthy because he's going to get beat up because he'll carry for 300 yards in the first game. He'll carry for 400 in the second game. And then in the third game, he'll have 300 yards before he gets hit and injured because he's just getting beat down because he's running. Even though he's getting 300 yards, it's actually more like 900 yards because he's running back and forth.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we can just kind of say enough said Dallas is taking the East.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. By default. AFC North.
NFC North.
NFC North, sorry.
You had the Green Bay Packers win the division last year with a record of 13-3. Chicago Bears finished second with a record of 8-8. Minnesota Vikings finished in third with a record of 7-9. And you had the Detroit Lions round out the division with a record of 5-11.
So I'm just going to start off by saying that this is the AFC North and the NFC North are similar in one aspect. And the similarities are that they are probably the toughest division for interplay out of any division in the NFL.
I'll give you that.
The NFC North is not as good as the AFC North. We're not going to be talking about how, there's 3 teams that possibly can make the playoffs here. None of that. But I will tell you, when you have a divisional game in this division, it is a dogfight. The same way in the AFC North. So they're the 2 toughest, most hard-hitting divisions in football. So I just want to open with that. With that being said, I do not see a reason why the Packers don't take this. Aaron Rodgers has a reason to shoot for the moon. And that reason is if he's got them by the balls. And by the way, I love every minute of this because either they need to make a play to win or he gets to walk and choose where he goes. Mm-hmm. So, but he has to hold his end of the bargain up and play lights out football. And as a multiple time MVP, the man can do that. And I don't think that, listen, unlike Green Bay has this problem, and they had this problem with a young man named Brett Favre. That's right. Listen to how he spells his name, damn it.
Listen to how they pronounced it on draft night.
I know. But I mean, I understand it's far, but I'm going to have some fun with that. But think about it. They pushed him out, albeit for Aaron Rodgers, who's a very capable quarterback. They pushed him out not quite when he was done. Mm-hmm. And they kind of, I think, were doing the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, only they didn't have the backup. They didn't have the next great quarterback lined up behind him.
Yeah.
And that's why he has them by the balls, because he still can win, and he still has it in him that he can prove it. Because if there's anybody in the league, and I'm going to take heat for this, if there's anybody in the league that comes close, and it's not even really that close, but anybody in the league that comes close to the greatness of Tom Brady, in his story, in our generation, if you will, it is Aaron Rodgers. It's not Peyton Manning like people like to pose it is. Aaron Rodgers always is the guy who gets overlooked. Him and Drew Brees are the most overlooked quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, in my opinion. And the reason why is they played in a time where there was 2 great quarterbacks that people put above and beyond. And one of them, Tom Brady, definitely worthwhile. Mm-hmm. Peyton Manning, not crapping on him completely, doesn't have the numbers that Aaron Rodgers does.
That's a great argument.
Aaron Rodgers has him beat in most of the awards. Aaron Rodgers has him beat in the Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers has him beat in the MVPs.
And let's face it, too, Aaron Rodgers has done more with less.
Oh, yeah. So, and once again, I'm not shitting on Peyton Manning. I think he's a great quarterback.
Yeah.
I just think that people miss the line that that Aaron Rodgers is the second best quarterback to Tom Brady in this generation. And with that being said, just like Tom Brady, the gas tank isn't on E yet. And the problem with that is for anybody is he's a very dangerous quarterback because right now he has something to prove. He has to prove that he isn't on E. And on top of that, he's either playing to win a Super Bowl in Green Bay, which he would prefer when you listen to him, because I really think he doesn't want to go. Mm-hmm. I don't think he wants to play for another team. But he wants to win. So he's either going to play his ass off and win in Green Bay, or he's going to play his ass off and get to pick the ticket of whatever team he wants to join to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line there.
Yeah, no, I definitely think this is Green Bay's race to lose. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers returning in Green Bay. He's also got Aaron Jones as running back, Devontae Adams, Marquez Valdez-Scantling at wide receiver, and then Alan Lazard. Then you look at the other teams. You've got Chicago, who is just a goddamn dumpster fire. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You drafted Justin Fields out of Ohio State, signed Nick Foles in the offseason, but you're starting Andy Dalton.
And the best part about it is they signed Nick Foles for a butt ton of money.
Yep.
And now they're looking at trading him.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you even doing?
It's hard to trade somebody when you paid them a lot of money.
I won't even go through the rest of their team because Chicago's a fucking dumpster fire. Minnesota is 50-50 shot. They still got Cousins at quarterback. Dalvin Cook is a running back, so he should be good. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and then KJ Osborne as their wide receivers. And then they've got Irv Smith Jr. at their tight end. So they should be all right. And then Detroit, again, much in the same way Chicago, Detroit's a goddamn dumpster fire because they've got Jared Goff at quarterback, DeAndre Swift as their running back, Tyrell Williams, Khalif Raymond, and then Amon Ra St. Brown as their wide receivers, TJ Hawkinson as their tight end, and oh, by the way, they don't have a goddamn kicker. You don't believe me? Look up their depth chart.
As of airtime, they do not have a kicker.
You look up their depth chart.
They'll have one by week 1.
They'll have one by week 1.
Right. But I'm just saying, as of airtime, we're talking, they do not have a kicker.
They do not have a kicker. You go to ESPN.com, they list Jack Fox as their punter and holder. They don't have a goddamn kicker. You look at Jack Fox, he is a punter. They do not have a kicker. They'll have one because the Patriots cut Nick Folk from their roster. They released Nick Folk from their roster today. Odds are, if I'm a betting man, I'm calling it now, Nick Folk's going to end up in Detroit. But but according to Adam Schefter, they do not have a kicker right now.
I'm going to say this. It might catch heat, might not, because I don't think anybody cares. Just like the city that they play for, the Detroit Lions are a dead team. It's a dead city. It's a dead team. Let's be honest.
That's also living on the success of like 50 years ago.
Yeah, and then also the fond memories of Barry Sanders, who single-handedly gave them a shot at anything, which shows how great Barry Sanders as a running back was. But then you had the little bit where you had Megatron.
Yeah.
It was exciting to watch, but they never put teams together because it's just not. They don't have it in the front office. They don't have it on the management side of it. They don't have it on the coaching staff. And then even when they have something good, they get rid of it, or they run it out of town because they don't want to go anywhere else. That's what happened with Barry Sanders ultimately at the end of the day. I just think it's a waste of space and time for Detroit unless they're going to try something. They should really sell the team. Like, because somebody could put together something that they're not putting together. And the Bears, I don't know what the Bears management team is doing, but you can't just keep signing quarterbacks every year to decent money contracts and then starting other people and then trying to trade decent money quarterbacks elsewhere, because it ain't going to happen. And nobody wants Nick Folks for the money that they were paying him. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, without a lot of concessions, which hurts your team. So you really are left with the Vikings and the Packers. And the Packers are obviously, in my opinion, the leaps and bounds above team, even though they're not where Aaron Rodgers would like them to be, because Aaron Rodgers would like a contender. But the Vikings, though, are interesting, because the Vikings have something that a lot of teams don't, and that is a defense. Mm-hmm. And they play very good defense in Minnesota. Their offense isn't suspect quite as much, because I do like Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's the guy for the future. They're definitely a team that if Aaron Rodgers becomes available, that is a team that he may pick.
I could definitely see that, as crazy as it sounds. I know we're going to get some people shooting us a line. But listen, you got to be looking at it from this perspective. Aaron Rodgers has literally lived and died and done everything he can to make Green Bay a contender each year. He gets no help from that GM, as we've talked about numerous times on this podcast. So now he is going to go into this season as a one-man show. And he is single-handedly going to want to give the middle finger to the office.
Bold prediction. I say he could make an MVP run this year.
I don't think that's bold. I think it's fact. I think he's going to come in. You remember how Belichick went on the revenge tour?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to see Rodgers do his version this year.
Rodgers has got a chip on his shoulder the size of Mount Everest.
Yeah, and he's going to...
And he doesn't need one.
And you know what? Every time he scores a touchdown, I guarantee he points right at that front office.
And even better than all that, like I pointed out, he has all the reason in the world. If he plays the top tier and they don't win, don't win the Super Bowl, he gets to personally pick which team he goes to. They have they sign that over. He literally gets to pick what team as long as they want to sign him. And with the exception of a few teams who have a franchise quarterback, any team is going to take him.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, the Buccaneers, as long as Tom Brady's playing, isn't going to take him. The Patrick Mahomes is solid in Kansas City. As much as I would love Aaron Rodgers in Las Vegas, I don't think the Raiders would ditch Derek Carr for him. I mean, I would. I love Derek Carr, but I would ditch him for Aaron Rodgers, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. But with them and maybe a couple other teams, that's it. Anybody else is going to go for it. And you know what? A team that we just talked about 2 segments ago, in the beginning, AFC North team, Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was going to say.
One veteran quarterback to another, and Pittsburgh would be ready to win with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, it'd be a wrap. Like I say, if he was going to go anywhere, I could see him going to Pittsburgh. I could see him going to Tennessee.
Yeah, that would be another lock.
That would be
Julio Jones, Aaron Rodgers, and Derrick Henry.
Oh,
that's a Super Bowl.
Right.
That's a nasty three-man band right there. Like, seriously, Aaron Rodgers has got the stroke. He could do that. And if he chose to leave, I mean, that's where I would go. I would go to the AFC. I wouldn't even waste my time in the NFC.
I agree. And there's some ready-made teams that could plug him in and win a Super Bowl.
Exactly. And I think he's smart enough to know that he has said, listen, I am literally going to put this team on my back. I'm going to win out of spite.
Oh, absolutely.
And like I say, if the front office isn't willing to work with him for whatever reason, and like I say, I still don't understand the disconnect, but at this stage, I think Rodgers has given his ultimatum, and he's going to basically force the hand.
And to keep him on the field, they had to agree to it, which is even better.
Yeah.
Talk about power to a player.
I know.
Amazing.
You don't see this in the NFL often.
No, and it was. I thought that was a very good move on his behalf, because it isn't him isn't the reason they haven't won a Super Bowl.
No, of course not. He's asked for help, and they won't get him any.
He's won MVPs when not winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's won with some of the most garbage teams that have been out there. Sorry, Packer fans. It's honest.
Dude, he won with teams that didn't even have a clear-cut number one receiver because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's that good. That's why I keep going back to, like I said, I'll take all the hate that people want to send me. I still love Peyton Manning. I think Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback. The only person I do not think Aaron Rodgers is better than is Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at the way the guy has played the game, he didn't need a receiver. He didn't need anything.
Yeah.
And he has still looked like $1 million. And when he does have pieces around him, whoo-hoo-hoo,
yeah,
it's fun to watch, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, absolutely.
And I can't wait to see what he does because either he's going to win a Super Bowl this season, which I don't think they will. I think they'll win their division.
No, they'll win the division outright.
I think he might. I would say that you could put him in definitely for winning MVP. But I think that he's going to get to punch his own ticket next year. And I agree. I think he's going to end up in the AFC. And honestly, out of the homes, I'm looking Pittsburgh or Tennessee. And I would prefer Tennessee because I think that'd be the scariest thing and the most fun to watch.
Oh, I think so too. I think they do that move in a heartbeat. And I don't think any team comes close. I think that they would honestly have a chance to run 15-1 if he goes there.
Absolutely. I mean, the Steelers would have an argument. Just because the Steelers are such a talented team and a great coach, and so therefore you're going to have things in place with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, so I can see the Steelers doing that, but I don't think that that's the long-term fix for the Steelers because Aaron Rodgers, at the end of the day, he's not on E, but let's be honest, he's only probably got 3 to 4 years left.
Yeah, he's got a small window, so unless they got somebody lined up to come after him.
Right.
And that's the thing. Pittsburgh needs to draft the next guy.
And Pittsburgh is a team that wants to win every season, so I think that's where you disqualify them because Tennessee doesn't care. The shot of the arm of signing him for the last 3 or 4 seasons and probably winning 2 Super Bowls is enough.
It'd be huge. So for Green Bay, it's do or die now, but I fully think Rodgers is an MVP candidate this season because he's going to literally want to try driving points up. He's going to play like a man possessed. Like I said, the closest thing you've seen is the Belichick revenge tour.
Oh, absolutely.
And I fully think we're going to see that this season. In fact, I got Green Bay going 11-6 just based off that anger. And I mean, for the rest of the division, Minnesota should be in second place.
Yeah.
I think that's an outright given. Their defense is always solid. I mean, Eric Kendricks does a great job as linebacker. But looking at that offense, okay, Cousins is a serviceable quarterback. Dalvin Cook is one of the best running backs in the league when he's on the field. Justin Jefferson is a Stephon Diggs-type player.
Absolutely.
And Thielen is always a solid receiver to balance out. So they should be putting up points, but yet they can't put it together. We talk about consistency. This team never has it.
It still should be a 9-8 or even 10-7 team.
It should be, yeah.
I mean, I'm anticipating them to do that this season. I really, mostly because I think you're going to get 4 gimme wins for them in the division, and then they might be able to steal one from Green Bay because they usually can.
Yeah.
Because they'll put it together and get something together for that one game because they're usually good about that. So I could really see them do. I definitely would say that they're going to go 9-8. But I could see them creeping into 10-7. I doubt they'll get to 11. With that being said, if they can become more consistent, they could become more scary, and they could also make a run for Green Bay as well.
Absolutely.
But outside of that, I think the other 2 teams are just...
No, the Bears are completely all over the place. Quarterback situation. The fact you're not starting Justin Fields right now, and listen, he's had a great preseason. Why not put him in? Because the other 2 options, like, listen, I love Andy Dalton. He has a special place in my heart for getting the Bills to the playoffs a couple of years ago. He's not the guy. And I'm sorry, this circus that they have going on, Matt Nagy, and what he's trying to do there just is not working. So they need to just completely start over. Fields is your guy. Let him run, and this is where you got to give him the chance. But they're not going to go any better than 6 games.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the worst part about all of it is that there's such a revolving door for quarterbacks. Unlike Cleveland, who just didn't have the solid quarterback and picked the wrong quarterbacks, they have brought in a numerous amount of quarterbacks who could have been decent if you would have put the work into them because they showed shades of brilliance during seasons, and then they just walked away for them for the flavor of the month that they brought in, and then they wouldn't even start that guy.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they can't get rid of that quarterback in a trade. Well, when you pay them top guy money and bench them, nobody wants to take that onto their roster.
Yeah, like I said, Nagy and the rest of the regime, in my opinion, just isn't getting the job done. So, they got to hit the reset button very soon. And Detroit, listen, Jared Goff replacing Matt Stafford, I don't think is the answer. I know Dan Campbell is trying to change everything there. He's got a lot of work to do. I mean, that's all you can really say about that. No more than 5 wins for them.
I'm doubting even that, but yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, that team is just atrocious. They're down in that bottom level with the Jets, the Texans, and the Jaguars. Yeah. They are a basement dweller.
Pat, any thoughts on that?
This division sucks outside of Green Bay.
I agree. Well, once again, Minnesota is serviceable.
Yeah.
They're not great, but they're serviceable. They'll give you something to watch at least.
It just depends on what team shows up. I mean, that's the
Right.
thing about with them. I mean, they fall in that Miami category of just
Miami, Las Vegas, and Minnesota. But I would say out of those, I'll agree with you. The Raiders are the top out of them because they have the highest upside. Whereas Miami is probably the low end only because God knows how they do it. Like they're one of those teams is weird that how they turn it on and off, and it's not really like talent based. It's weird.
They have weird luck.
Right.
That's the easiest way to describe
and
it.
And then Minnesota is kind of in that if they could ever put it together, they could make a decent run.
Yeah, because you remember that game against the Rams? They had 4 turnovers in the first half. Yeah, explain me that. So that being said, I think this is Green Bay's to run away with, and
absolutely.
I think we just kind of summed that up. So, folks, we have given you our picks for the NFC East and the NFC North, but hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your picks for the NFC East and the NFC North? We definitely want to have that conversation at 3 Fat Nerds Pod and at OD Parlay Hour on Twitter. So bring on your takes. We're ready for them. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Good morning. Brian Wayne here to tell you about my new podcast, The Real Brains. The Real Brains podcast is a show coming out daily, dedicated to the everyday struggle of just the average human being. From troubles with rage to just anecdotes about very strange human interactions, this podcast really is just somebody that's all too familiar with the struggle. I'm here to let you know that you are not alone, so come laugh at our pain together every single weekday, every place you can catch a podcast. Check out The Real Brains with Brian Wayne. Remember, stay sane.
Coming back for our NFL preview here on the ODPH podcast with Rich from the 3FN podcast in studio. Let us talk about the NFC South now, though.
Sure. Last year, you had the New Orleans Saints win the division with a record of 12-4. Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished in second place with a record of 11-5. Carolina Panthers finished in third at 5-11, and then you had the Atlanta Falcons finish last at 4-12.
It's always surprising to remember that the Buccaneers didn't win the division.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be a problem this year. Let's be honest.
No.
I honestly, we're going to break it down because I think this division does have some saving graces in it. But I definitely think that obviously the Buccaneers are the team to be in the NFC South. With that being said, we don't know what the Saints are going to bring to the table. This is officially the first season without Drew Brees.
How weird is that?
Very.
So, I mean, that was the one consistent there, and now we don't have that. And I understand that we're going to have a new starting quarterback, but I'm not quite sold on the whole deal there. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. The Panthers, what can we really say about the Panthers?
Not a lot.
They have a good running back.
Yes, true. But, it's another one of these divisions where we're two top-heavy teams and then not so much on the bottom half.
Yeah.
And that's sad, but it's true. So I mean, obviously, we're just going by the overview before we really break it down. I gotta say the Buccaneers should just walk right through this, unless somehow, some way, the Saints pull off some miracles down there.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely Tampa Bay's division to lose, barring some freak injuries or like they all forget how to play football at the same time. New Orleans. It's like you said, going to be interesting to see. Jameis Winston first year at the helm in New Orleans. Will it be the Jameis Winston of old, the member of the 40-40 club? Not the baseball term, the 40 touchdowns and like 40 interceptions or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
He's still got Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, still there on the offense. So we'll see how that goes. Also want to send our thoughts and well wishes out to the folks down in New Orleans dealing with the hurricane down there. Stay safe down there. Also going to be interesting with their schedule, seeing as they're supposed to play Green Bay at home week 1. That, from what I was reading this morning, may not happen because unless you live under a rock, the city of New Orleans has no power.
Yeah.
And for them to play an NFL game down there, well, you need power. You also need power so that they can communicate back to New York for any potential instant replay reviews. And if they have no power, then they can't really play the game. So that's something to keep your eye on. The game could be moved. They could play it in Green Bay. They could play it at some
They'll
neutral
probably
site.
play it at a neutral site, I would imagine.
So definitely keep an eye out on that. Carolina obviously signed Sam Darnold in the offseason. They've still got Christian McCaffrey, also got Robbie Anderson at wide receiver, DJ Moore. So we'll see. I mean, it's not a huge improvement, but Christ, it's better than what they had last year. And then there's Atlanta.
Who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta? Hot fucking garbage.
Hold on. Don't you remember we were told that they were a lock for the playoffs last year?
I've got it on a Word doc too.
I just want to throw this out there. That is the one thing that I am so upset the coach is not here for, because I want to know how that worked out for him.
I did, just for the sake of keeping track and looking back at it at the end of the season. I did, as I'm doing this year, writing down all of our picks for the divisions and wins and all this. So last year, for the NFC South, he did have Atlanta as a lock to make the playoffs. He didn't have them winning the division, but he had them as a lock to make the playoffs.
Yep.
That didn't work out so well.
No.
Yeah.
And now they've lost one of their biggest weapons.
Yeah.
The whole saga of Atlanta since the Super Bowl has just been abysmal. Because on paper, this team should be playing a lot better than it has. And for whatever reason, if you want to call it, they're still traumatized from what happened.
At this point, you can't even use it as an excuse.
You can't. I mean,
it's a number of years ago that you really can't.
No, you can't. And to see that this team just flat out underperforms as bad as it does.
It is because I'm gonna say this. This is the problem that you've had in Atlanta. The main part is coaching. They do not have great coaching, and it's been exposed many times. But the other part is that Matt Ryan, although a great tooled quarterback, is not a leader. I repeat, he is not a leader. He is not the guy that you want to go to when the game is on the line, because he's not going to put it away. And that was always suspect. That has happened to them time and time again, of course, most notably the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously, we all remember that. But it happened before then, and it's happened since. It's just he's one of those guys that he's not the Tom Brady, Joe Montana type. When the game's on the line, you want him underneath the center to make the best play. He just isn't that guy.
No.
That's why it's ironic that his name is Matty Ice.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem they had, because how do you have a great receiving core with arguably one of the best receivers in the game, and you come into last season and have such an atrocious season?
It's mind-boggling. I mean, you look at this roster on paper now. I mean, especially with Julio Jones there, it's a whole different dynamic. But right now, as it stands, Matt Ryan's your quarterback. Mike Davis is your running back. Your wide receivers are Calvin Ridley, who's very good. He's going to be a breakout star this season. And Russell Gage. And then Kyle Pitts, who they drafted first round out of Florida. He's going to be a game changer.
It's like the one bright spot.
Yeah, that's the one bright spot for the future. But then again, you're doing the same old song and dance. Like, on paper, they should be good.
On paper, they also have a decent offensive line.
Yeah.
He doesn't get rushed that much. That's why it's the weirdest thing ever that he can't close the deal. Like, and it has to fall on the quarterback and the coaching staff, because obviously there's some questionable coaching going down over there. And until they figure that part of it out, I don't see them being a contender.
Well, it's going to be something. I believe they have a new head coach. But they still got to put it together, though. I mean, that's the one thing about them that we still have yet to see, because you have the talent, but can you put that into one place? I mean, that's the one thing. Arthur Smith is taking over as head coach.
Okay. Well,
but still,
here's the problem. He's already started off at a disadvantage because they lost Julio Jones. I mean, poor guy.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. So Arthur Smith has got to work out for him. But yet again.
And was he the offensive or defensive coordinator for Tennessee?
Offensive.
All right. So that makes sense, because, I mean, that Tennessee Titans offense is amazing. So, I mean, it's a good pickup, but starting with a disadvantage and a team, I don't know. I hope for the best. They have the tools on paper, but I just don't see them getting the job done.
No, I definitely don't see that happening. The only team I think is going to be worse is Carolina, because I think they're still in bad shape. I know Matt Rule is in his another year but like I say, when you come from the college ranks to the pros, it's different to turn programs around. Carolina, listen, your starting quarterback now is one Sam Darnold.
Oh, man.
So is this a rebuilding time for him? I hope for his sake he can salvage his career, because, I mean, obviously New York was not kind to him. And
Can they get Cam Newton back?
You know what? You never say never at this stage in the game, but this is a situation for Carolina that you have Christian McCaffrey, who's in the prime of his career, and yet does not have anything around him that really scares you. I mean, Robbie Anderson is a serviceable receiver, but he's not a threat. And DJ Moore, yeah, he's a good one, but he's also very inconsistent in my opinion. So what are you going to do to compete with the Tom Brady's and the New Orleans Saints?
Pray.
I just got to point out, Moore is also on the back half of his career.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not exactly a spring chicken. He's serviceable at best. I just don't see, and their defense is not great. It's not, they're not, when you look at, the Saints are the definitely big question mark in this division. Mm-hmm. The Buccaneers are going to walk away with the division, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But the Saints are a big question mark. I'm not sure that I like Jameis Winston as the quarterback. I'm kind of curious to why they didn't go with Sean Hill.
Or Taysom Hill. Sorry. I don't know why they didn't go with Hill, in my opinion, because Jameis Winston, he should have the tools, but he never has had the tools. I think that what they're going with is he's the most experienced for starting in comparison to Hill for right now. Like, I think that him having the starting job is not exactly a lock long term, but I think if he plays well enough, he can keep the job, because that's the one. If you want to say good thing that New Orleans has right now is you have two serviceable quarterbacks that you can plug in to lead your team. I think with Winston, he's been playing a lot better and showing that growth with New Orleans since when we saw him in Tampa Bay. But then again, when you also have an offense with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas when Thomas is healthy, that's a whole different dynamic than what he had in Tampa Bay.
That's
in my
true.
Opinion. So, and plus you have Sean Payton, who is one of the best coaches in the league. So, as we say, he can make a lot of chicken salad out of chicken stuff when you're given the time to develop and really make those tools happen. So, this is going to be an interesting situation, but I don't think that they have enough to overtake the Buccaneers as we talk about. I think that they're on the road of rebuilding, and I think Drew Brees left them in a good position. He didn't leave them in a high and dry spot. He announced his retirement, so they had enough time to go plan and go do what they needed to do. But like I say, I don't see this team going better than 9-8.
I agree. I don't think that they're going to go better in 9-8 either. I mean, realistically, I probably would say the Buccaneers are probably going to have either the best record in the NFL or next to best record in the NFL. I really see them probably winning 13 games easy. So probably 13-4 there, number one. And then I would say in second place is 9-8 with New Orleans, because I think that's a fair assessment. Then after that, Atlanta maybe with maybe 6 or 7 wins, followed by the basement dwellers in Carolina. And I think that they're going to be one of those teams that are lucky to get 5 wins on the season.
No, yeah, this is Tampa Bay's division lose. Then you got New Orleans. I'm going to say Carolina, and then Atlanta.
I fully agree. I mean, I think Tampa Bay is going to get at least 12, at least, barring anything. But the question mark you got to say is, okay, everybody won. They kept most of their team intact, which is unheard of.
No, I think they kept them all.
Yeah, like I said,
all 22 starters are coming back.
That's a wild stat to think about in this day and age.
It's never happened in the NFL.
Yeah,
I mean, you got one of the best running backs in the league. You got great receivers. You got a great tight end. I mean, and then the defense. The defense, a lot of people were downplaying.
They're decent.
They're not great, but if you think about it, you know what? A lot of people did downplay the Buccaneers defense, but they're very serviceable.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. I mean, but when you also have Tom Brady, who came in with a little chip on his shoulder to prove that he could still go at this age, which is mind-boggling because Father Time catches up with everybody, hasn't caught Tom yet.
Well, the funny part was the reason they didn't win the division last year, and a lot of us forgot that, is because early in the season they had a tough time meshing.
Yeah.
But once they started firing on all cylinders, they never looked back. Let's be honest, they never did, and that's why they walked through the playoffs and into the Super Bowl with the win.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question mark now, though. I mean, because they had that fairy tale story last year. Are they going to be still as hungry to get back there? I think Tom Brady is going to instill that in that team because that's just how he's wired.
I think all of them want to win again. I don't know if there's a person on that team that does not want to take home this trophy.
No, I think they want to, but it's just, how bad. Like
Listen,
I said, the motivator
man, they want to get back on those yachts, drinking the brewskis, tossing around the Lombardi trophy. I mean, let's be honest. Why wouldn't you? This team is set up to win, and I really think that they're either going to have the best record in the NFL or the second best record in the NFL. They have the talent, they have the people, the veterans are there, they have some young kids. to weave in with the veterans. And you know what? If you're one of the young serviceable receivers that they have, and you're sitting behind some of the legends of this, literally a lot of these guys are going to be Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
I mean, you have one of the greatest, if not the greatest tight end of all time down there.
Yeah, I mean, Gronkowski is definitely helping O.J. Howard. And
absolutely.
I said, and then Antonio Brown is definitely helping out Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like I say, it's a win-win down there. So, like I say, they should. But that's one thing I always say with pro sports. It's tough to motivate millionaires. Like, you would think, you come back to do it.
I mean, I think there's motivation because, I mean, you got to remember Antonio Brown for the first time in his career put his shit on hold and lived in a pool house.
So he gave a fuck.
Well, and he cared. And I think in hearing him in the offseason, he keeps saying the only thing better than that one is the second one.
Well, that's what you hope that does happen. Just say a lot of times in pro sports, we don't see that.
And although you got to be honest that he is on the back half of his career, the back half of an Antonio Brown career is still an amazing wide receiver.
Exactly.
I mean, that's like Randy Moss on the back half of his career was still better than 95% of the receivers in the league. It's the same thing with Antonio Brown because he has that switch in him that when he turns it on, it's over. He might not have the speed he had when he was younger.
No, but he's still
But he can make up for it.
Yeah.
Well, he makes up for it with the experience and how to get to the ball. Now he's jumping for the ball. He's diving for the ball. He's putting himself in the positions that a receiver that you can't teach. You don't teach the things that Antonio Brown does. I mean, we all remember he had that classic moment in the Super Bowl when he was still in Pittsburgh when he fucking caught a perpendicular counter pass in the end zone.
Yeah.
He can still do that.
Oh, yeah.
He just might not be able to outburn everybody like he used to.
Well, that's the whole thing. But like I say, he's still helpful to this team. It's not like he fell off and he's just hanging on. That's the big thing about this.
And then Gronk is the dangerous stuff that he's always been because who runs a better 10-yard slant than Gronkowski?
Yeah.
And the check down from him and Brady is one of the most fun. And you can't stop that. You know how we know? Because people have tried for a long time between New England and Tampa Bay.
Just don't put him on Hail Mary pass defense.
That's never good. But once again though, the guy, think about it, Gronk, even at his age, he's rumbling and tumbling, and you can't, for some reason, Brady to Gronk, which everybody knows is coming, cannot be stopped.
Yeah, it's like Mariano's cutter.
Yeah, it can't be stopped.
It's a wild scenario, but that's how that shakes up. I mean, for the rest of the division, yeah, New Orleans is going to be in second place. Atlanta and Carolina, you can coin flip because it's really not going to matter too much.
Yeah, pretty sure. No.
But let's finish this out with our NFC West preview. Pat, you got that all lined up?
Yeah, so you had the Seattle Seahawks win the division last year with a record of 12-4. The LA Rams finished in second place with a record of 10-6. The Arizona Cardinals finish in third with a record of 8-8. And then you had the San Francisco 49ers finish out the division at 6-10.
Underachieved like hell in that. Listen, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I'm going to say it right on air. The NFC West is the best division in the NFC.
Facts.
Yes.
And these teams are going to rumble. And there's some great young teams. And there's been some great moves out there that we're going to talk about. I still think it's, Seattle, until proven otherwise, Seattle's still the top team.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that the Cardinals, who have put some good places in place, and the Rams could not get it done as well. The Rams could possibly be possibly put it into place, but I know you got the Cardinals depth chart pulled up, and I like some of the moves the Cardinals made. So.
Yeah, so on offense, they've got Kyler Murray still at their quarterback position, Chase Edmonds as their starting running back, DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. Green, along with Christian Kirk at their wide receiver core, Max Williams is their starting tight end, but also on the defense, they added J.J. Watt. They still got Chandler Jones down there, so they're looking pretty good.
The defense is going to be solid. That run and pass rush is going to be phenomenal with Watt and Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And they could possibly have the best receiving core in all of football.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. Green is a Madden cheat code waiting to happen.
And I'm going to go on a limb and say this. We have not seen the best of Murray yet.
No. Because the only knock I have on Arizona is I don't think they've done enough to address that offensive line. And plus, their running back core, until you get a good line, it doesn't matter who you have in the backfield.
No, I agree.
That's the one holdup I have against with him. Because Kingsbury has came in there and he's implemented a lot of stuff that I didn't think was going to work. But it works with Murray. But Murray can only scramble so much and run so much. He's got to learn about staying in the pocket, but that also comes with having a line.
If the line can protect him or they can get a line, Arizona's looking like is right on the cusp of being a top-tier team. Because literally I think Murray is the best quarterback, young quarterback in the league, I should say, currently. Because, like I said, we've seen all the other guys' potential. And I'm not saying anything bad. I mean, obviously, Patrick Mahomes, great quarterback. But we've seen his full potential. Mm-hmm. We've only seen a taste of Murray, and he's already that good. Imagine what happens if you can see the great picture. And I agree with you that the offensive line is the big question mark. I don't know if they did enough to address it this year. I know they tried to address it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're quite there yet. But with that being said, it could be one of those really weird things. Remember 2 seasons ago when the New York Giants didn't really do much to their line, but all of a sudden their line started playing like gangbusters? Mm-hmm. It could be one of those situations. I'm not saying it's going to be, but it could be. But I think that they need to continue to address that line because that receiving core is dangerous. And if you give Murray was making plays happen with scrambling. Can you imagine if you gave that kid 3 or 4 seconds in the pocket to deliver the ball to those guys?
Uh-huh.
Like I said, we have not seen his full potential. And until we do, I want to say the Cardinals aren't going to get it done this year. I don't think they're going to be the top team, but they're going to still show you some cool stuff. And I think that they're going to be a team to keep your eye on in the future.
Yeah, no, I'm with Rich. Until otherwise, this is Seattle's division to lose. I do think Arizona's going to make a vast improvement, just like everything he said, the wide receiving core, the defensive stuff there. I think for right now, you got to pencil in the LA Rams in third place just because Stafford's a lot different than Goff. Could that be an upgrade offensively? We'll see. He's still got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, on the offense there. So could do some decent things. San Francisco, I mean, we just don't know. They drafted Trey Lance, but who knows if he's going to be the starter over Garoppolo. They do still have Raheem Mostert at running back, Deebo Samuel, and then Mohamed Sanu Sr. At the wide receiver core. They've got George Kittle at tight end, so they've got some stuff, but Lord knows who their starter is going to be. So I think for right now, if I had to, you're going to have the Seahawks win the division, Cardinals finish second, Rams, and then the Niners.
I'm with you, Pad. I fully agree with you on those picks. Because for me, like I say, Russell Wilson is still in Seattle with DJ Metcalf. That's all you really need. The only thing that I think will be the big X factor for them, can they have a running back stay healthy? Because that is the one part of their offense they cannot get right. And I understand injuries happen, so I get that. This is football. It's the most violent sport you can play. But this is always a big factor that whatever they get for a depth chart usually does not stay healthy for the entire season. It is what it is.
I agree with that. I think that the Seahawks definitely should have the division, although I will say that the Rams in second could be that sleeper team. If Stafford can dial it in being on a new team and Stafford can go and perform, the Rams do have the talent.
Well, here's the only thing with the Rams I will say. Stafford is an upgrade from Goff.
Oh, yeah.
Completely. And I will say this. I've always liked Stafford because you know what? He never was asking to leave Detroit. He went out there with a broken collarbone and played his ass off. And he gave everything he could to Detroit. So the fact they got him now in a better situation with a line that is going to do wonders for him at this age. And he does have serviceable wide receivers in Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. The only question is with injuries they've been plagued with for their running backs. And I believe now the number one on their depth chart is going to be Sony Michel.
I believe so, yeah.
So if you can get something out of him, I think they can definitely go there because your defense, you still got Jalen Ramsey and you got Aaron Donald.
Their defense is solid.
Yeah. So
the defense is not the question in L.A.
Right. It's just it comes down to the running back, and can Sean McVay get them over the hump with Stafford? I think they're going to contend. They're going to be in that talk.
I will say this. If Stafford dials it in, and Stafford plays the way that Stafford played in some of those breakout seasons for Detroit when there was glimmers of hope, which he can.
Yes.
It's not like that player's gone. He was, like you said, he was just in a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw it out there. They could sneak it in. I don't think that it's likely. I still think that the Seahawks, but they're a team to watch because they could sneak it in. If he can dial it in and he takes control of that, the nice part about the running back stuff, and I do agree to have a nice running back, but Stafford's also a pass-first quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where that goes to play first. And so if you have a running back who can catch the ball out of the backfield and a tight end to check down to, Stafford can spread the field. And that will also create a pseudo running game doing stuff to the flat. So, I mean, I really think that I think we don't need to sleep on him.
No, we don't. We definitely don't, but it's just going to be a matter of can they all gel together. And then for San Francisco, look, if they can all stay healthy, because they were probably the most injury-plagued team of all last season.
I would say so, yeah.
they should be up in the top echelon of this division. I just don't know what you're going to get out of Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Because as we're recording, I believe Garoppolo is named starter. So if you can get something out of Jimmy G, that's great. And then let the team take over, because we seem to forget with San Francisco, when they're healthy, they're downright scary. They're a nasty team on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. But it's just a matter of getting those guys on the field is the big issue.
Yeah, the Niners are definitely in the basement. I mean, they're on rebuild right now. Let's be honest. I mean, and you know what, though? They showed shades of brilliance last year.
Yeah.
Even though they had a weak record. So, I mean, the rebuild will go well for them. That division is a tough division.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely in a tough division, but they can hang in the tough division. That's the key takeaway from them this season. So, that all being said, Pat, who you got?
I'm going to take Seattle Seahawks. I mean, like Rich said, until proven otherwise, it's their race to lose.
All right. Rich?
Seahawks, obviously. I mean, like I said, there are some sleeper teams to watch, but Seattle is definitely the number one right now. Although Seattle needs to make some moves in the next couple of years to keep up with these younger teams that are coming up behind them. Because trust me, Arizona is going to be real scary coming up. The Rams could be real scary right now. And the Niners, I actually have faith in their rebuild because they've already showed shades of brilliance. So this division is really good. So Seattle's dominance could come to an end if they don't make some changes. But as far as the season at hand, definitely Seattle.
I got Seattle winning the division 12-5. I got Arizona going 10-7. I got LA right behind them at 9-8. Just because of Stafford, you got to kind of see how it all meshes together. And like we said, San Francisco's rebuilding, but I'm going 7-10.
That's fair enough. All of those I could see definitely happen. I do think this is going to be the best division in the NFC.
Oh, yeah, by far and away. There's so much talent on all four teams that this makes it a standout. It's not going to be so smash mouth like the North divisions are, but they're going to be definitely in every game, whoever they're facing. So now we've given you our preview of the entire division. We got to give you our picks of who is going to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl in the NFC. So, Pad, why don't you kick us off?
So for the playoffs, I got Dallas, the Green Bay Packers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then the Seattle Seahawks. And for the wild card, I've got two coming out of the West in Arizona and then the Rams. And then I think for the NFC champs, I think it's going to be the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour. I think it's going to be the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh, okay. Rich?
Picks. I'm going to say the number one seed and also coming out of the division in the NFC North or South, is going to be the Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. Coming in second is going to be the NFC North, and that is going to be the Green Bay Packers, followed closely by the West representative, and that would be the Seahawks. And then the wild card teams will probably end up better than the East representative, but the East representative will be the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Wild card teams. I'm going to agree with Pat. I think the NFC West is going to send three teams. I think it is going to be the Cardinals and the Rams, possibly in the opposite order. It doesn't matter. I think they're still going. Man, I do believe it's going to be the Green Bay revenge, the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour, the Green Bay tour. But here's the problem. I don't think Green Bay is going to put it together. I think they're going to come up short against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. I think still your NFC champions will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is going to lead us to an interesting season next year with Aaron Rodgers making his AFC debut.
Yeah. For my picks, I got Tampa Bay, number one seed. Number 2, Seattle. Number 3, Green Bay in the revenge tour. 4 by default, them Cowboys. The wild card, I got Arizona and I got New Orleans. I think there'll be like a weird tiebreaker between them and the Rams because I have both of them 9-8. So that being said, I think the NFC division game is going to be Tom Brady meeting Mr. Russell Wilson. I don't think the revenge tour gets there.
Ooh.
I think it gets held up, and this is when Aaron Rodgers says, relax, I'll see you in Tennessee next season. And I just think that Tom Brady and company are going to be too much for Russell Wilson. And I just think that when it comes down to it, Tampa Bay is in win-now mode, and I think that Tom Brady is going to will it. I think this is going to be his last run. But I think he definitely gets there to the Super Bowl.
Fair assessment.
So that being said, we gave you our picks for the NFC, but don't worry, we got one more segment to go here on this ODPH NFL Preview Edition because we got to give you our picks for the Super Bowl. And, oh, yeah, there's something called Locks and Leaps coming up. So we got to talk about that when we come back from break. So stay tuned.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna I'll go where no one knows my name. To the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast with special guest host Rich from the Three Fat Nerds podcast, 8122 Productions, 607 TWS, and a whole bunch more. We've given you our picks on the AFC and the NFC of the NFL, but now it is time to talk who is our picks for the Super Bowl. Pad, kick us off.
So, of course, in the AFC, I chose the Buffalo Bills, and then in the NFC, I chose the Green Bay Packers. I think it's going to end up being the ultimate Aaron Rodgers fuck you tour to the Green Bay Packers front office. I'm going to make you guys pay for this fucking shit. I'm going to win a Super Bowl, and then deuces, I'm on my way out. See you later.
Can't argue with that too much. Rich?
My picks were the Buffalo Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the matchup we should have gotten last year. Man, and I would love to see the Bills go all the way and win a Super Bowl. And I would really, really love to see that for multiple reasons. Because I also have it on good authority, if the Bills win a Super Bowl, you have a side bet with Diesel.
Yes.
So I would really like to see the Bills win the Super Bowl. So I am rooting hard for the Bills to win the Super Bowl. But I just think it's Tom Brady's farewell tour, and he's going to go out with a bang. So once again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be Super Bowl champions.
Would be the first time since 2004-2005 that an NFL team has repeated as Super Bowl champs. Also a team quarterbacked by Tom Brady.
Yes.
It's definitely in the realm of thought. For my picks, I had Cleveland and I had Tampa Bay. And I think Cleveland is going to have a nice Cinderella story, but let's be honest. This is all writing to be Tom Brady's swan song. Listen, he's playing at a high level, and I can't take anything away from him, but the body can only do so much. But he is in a position to win right now. Tampa Bay is experienced, and they're hungry. And like I say, the only factor is if he can get that team motivated to win, they're going to go far. And I think that he will will that. For if anything, if there is even the slightest sign of decline in his play, for whatever reason, just whenever it happens, I think that team is going to rally, and I think that team is going to say, we got you on one more to ride you out in the sunset. So that's why I think it is going to be Tampa Bay 31, Cleveland 24 in the Super Bowl. I'll even give you a point spread on that one.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm going to be rooting hard for the Bills if they make it that far, just because there is a bet on the line between you and one big natty cool.
Detroit and Jacksonville, he said we're going to get to the Super Bowl before, or win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he also made a side bet with you, the Bills. He said the Bills, and then we talked him into Detroit and Jacksonville as well.
Yes.
And that you agreed to it.
The $20.
Also, yes. Well, he originally wanted you to watch a certain movie for it, but you refused.
Yes.
But also, I have it on good authority from you that if the Bills win, you're putting yourself through a table.
Probably. I would say I could definitely see that happening.
So there's a win-win for me to see the Bills win. But I still think the Buccaneers, I think the swan song for Tom Brady will happen.
Yes, I fully do too. Like, it's just, he's playing at such a high level, and eventually it's going to stop. And I'm not saying this as a Tom Brady hater, because no, I give the devil his due. He's the GOAT. But I think, though, just it happens with everybody, that there's just that point where the body is not going to produce at that high level. And he's pushing that limit. And right now he's looking great. And sure, it's the honeymoon phase. But we saw when Peyton Manning came back, too, right around the same age. It fell off. And I'm not saying I'm wishing this, but I'm just using the logical sense about it.
Sure.
So we'll have to wait and see when the season kicks off. But Pat's got a couple notable games he wants you to circle on the calendar.
Yeah, so of course I know everyone's gets all excited and amped up for the Thanksgiving Day games. There's also Christmas Day games this year.
Ooh, the NBA is going to be pissed.
Yeah, they are.
So on the Thanksgiving Day games, on the 12:30 game on Fox, you've got the Chicago Bears taking on the Detroit Lions.
In the toilet bowl.
Yeah. In the 4:30 game on CBS, you've got the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Whoop, whoop. And then in the 8:20 game on NBC, you've got the Buffalo Bills taking on the New Orleans Saints. And then on Christmas Day, at 4:30 on Fox, you've got the Cleveland Browns taking on the Green Bay Packers. And then at 8:15, you've got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Arizona Cardinals.
Solid lineup right there.
Absolutely.
Christmas Day looks amazing, and then the night game and the late game on Thanksgiving also good. But come on, let's be honest. The Bears and the Lions, you can just take your nap during that game.
I've only ever cared about the Lions game on Thanksgiving Day once, and that was when the Patriots played them.
Yeah, well,
about it.
This is not the year to care.
No, it definitely isn't. But it is all going to get started on Thursday, September 9th. Dallas will be going to Tampa Bay for the primetime matchup, so it's great to have football back in session. But before we close this edition of the ODPH out, it is that time of year for us as well, for the most infamous game that we can play here. It has memories, it has tradition. We've been doing it since day one, often imitated, never duplicated, and that is Locks and Leaps. So this year's 2021 Locks and Leaps Invitational is about to go down. A couple minor changes we did from last year, though. So we're going to explain that just very quick. So everybody who is invited will be given their picks to yours truly on Twitter via DM by 12:30 of each Sunday game day. And instead of picking one lock and one leap, which is one favorite via the Vegas line that we post on our Facebook page, and one underdog, you'll be picking 2 games. So it'll be a total of 4 games for the week. So the most you can get is 6 points if you get everything right, because if you get an extra bonus point if your team covers the spread. So we will be posting those stats on Facebook as well. And if you miss a week, because this was one of the biggest feedback I got from when we did it on Yahoo. People missed a week, they quit, and they weren't coming back for it. We're going to institute the pad rule about games. So if you miss a week, Pad, what do you get to do?
You get to pick the equivalent number of games that you missed in an effort to make up said distance.
Exactly.
Otherwise, vice versa, it could also fuck you even harder.
It could.
That is true.
But this is where you kind of take that leap, because we're trying to make this as accessible for everybody so nobody can go, I missed a week, I quit, and I was out. Because, I mean, I did win the Yahoo one, but we do have our champion of the 607 bracket in studio. So we are going to say we're instituting the pad rule on here. So on Facebook, you're going to be coming after Rich. The winner will be getting a special Locks and Leaps t-shirt we will mail out to you. We haven't had any ties yet, but we'll cross that bridge when we come closer to it. But before we announce who is in the field, our champion would like to address the masses.
Oh, I was going to wait until after.
Oh, you want to wait till after?
I'll wait till after, because I want to send a message to everybody.
Okay. So, the moment that the internet has been waiting for. This is the lineup that we have slated for this year's 2021 Locks and Leaps. So, that being said, the first entrants into this year's field are the ODPH panel, of course, Ken M, Padawan J, and Coach Duffy. Representing 8122 Productions, of course, our defending champion, Rich. We also are inviting back from the So Wizard podcast, the one and only Joey DiCarlo. Representing the crossover collision, JVD and Evan the Great. Which, by the way, if you're looking for some Shang-Chi information, the Deadly Podcast of Kung Fu. Phenomenal podcast right now. Also joining the field, you know her as Mrs. Coach, but the trophy wife is returning, as she did put on Yahoo. So that is the official name that she was going by. We do have returning to the field the one and only Brian Wayne from the Cheers to Comics and Real Brains podcast. Entering the field this year from the East Coast Avengers, JT. Also getting offered to enter the field from the We Get Dubbed podcast, Mac East. From Hops Geek News, Mash, you're in the field. Representing the Nerdy Photographer podcast, Casey, you're in the field. Of course, we got to give a shout out to our guys at Stranger Damies. So Dan, you're in the field. And of course, we got to give a shout out to our guy from twitch.tv/607 podcast in the wrestling chat every single episode, Lou from Pinda Comics. You are in the field. Now, there are a couple people that we weren't sure if they were going to come back or not. So if you are interested in doing it, you can DM me. I'm cutting the list off right now at 20. So we do have a couple spots open. So if there's any podcasters out there that want to get a piece of the action, you know where to find us at OD Parlay Hour, and we'll make that happen. But for right now, I'm going to turn the mic over to Rich, who would like to address the masses.
So the largest field of the 607 podcast bracket, and in the largest field of this, it is kind of intriguing because in only my second year, I won. In my first year, I came damn close, but Pad, as a graceful champion, instituted the pad rule last year because, technically there was a way I could have won if I would have picked right in a week that I missed.
Mm-hmm. We also did it because it was COVID.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But also he is a very graceful champion. With that being said, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to make this challenge. there is, in the years of this, there is a back-to-back champion, and then there's me.
We're like the Lakers and Celtics here.
And for the last 2 years, we are the final two battling it out. And it ain't going to be different this year. There can be 20 of you. There can be 30 of you. It's going to be the same. So my challenge to you is to step up. Step up and try to defeat myself and Pad. I'm going to bring the A game to win, because that's what I do. Pad's going to bring his A game to win, because that's what he does. But I guarantee that either it'll be the 3-time champion or the second back-to-back champion this year, because that's how I'm going to go with it. Because it's a lot nicer to talk shit with 2 of us than just 1 of us. And until proven otherwise, that's how it works. That's how it rolls. You can have your Yahoo championships, you can have whatever, but there's only one title that matters, and that's the Locks and Leaps champion. And if I'll tell you what, if I win, I'm buying a belt.
We might have to do that.
I've seen him sponsored post on Facebook.
That's right.
We might have to seriously think about investing in this. I'm just going to put it out there.
But I'm just throwing it out there. I hope there's competition this year. Because let's be honest, I was brought in and I made the run and almost won in the first season. I won in the second season. Pat has got 2 titles. So all the titles are represented in this room. And I don't think that's going to change. So everybody, gun hard, gun heavy, do your homework. But and it also is interesting that we're going to 4 games, which is nice.
Yes.
Because I kind of dig that.
Well, we figured because what we're going to do is announce 1 game here on the podcast to kind of make it a little more interesting, like we usually do for the show. So it kind of gives a little more fairness. And like I said, I've been taking the feedback from everybody that was in the field last year. And this is what I got the majority of people were saying, because on Yahoo, they lock you out.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're decided to make it a little more fair. We're going to do it all on Facebook. And like I said, so everybody that was in the pool on Yahoo, if you want back in and I didn't mention you, just DM me and let me know. Like I said, I can fully imagine Mrs. Coach, a.k.a. Trophy Wife, is going to come gunning.
I hope she does, just for the stories alone.
I just want to point this out. Let's be honest. She's going to finish better than Coach does.
Yes.
Automatically. and I'll tell you what. I'll even make this statement. If she should win over me and Pad, that's fine. Because that is going to lead to endless joy for myself and Padawan J.
She's also going to talk so much shit to Coach.
Yeah, Aaron is going to let it know.
Once again, it's going to lead to endless joy. So I'm rooting for her. I mean, I'm rooting for myself, let's be honest. But I'm rooting for her as a dark horse just because I just want to enjoy that moment. But bask in the glory that is your champions, because one of us will probably, let's be honest, odds are you're either going to have a 3-time champion or the second 2-time back-to-back champion. Either way, learn to love it, learn to love it, love to learn it, however you want to look at it. But it's the best damn thing going today. MDK all day.
Oh, you can swear.
I know, but I wanted to be like Nick Gage. And
oh, yeah, that's right. Because, we saw he's doing inspirational videos for work.
He is going to be an inspirational motivator, and that's all I need to know.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that being said, Rich, you've been such a gracious co-host. Obviously, you're welcome here anytime you can come through. Why don't you tell the people where to find you?
Oh, good Lord. 8122productions.com is the best place to go. It's a one-stop shop. You can find out everything about the 3 Fat Nerds, Horror Zone 607, 607 TWS, and everything else. Of course, T-Public Store link is on there. We got some new stuff coming out soon. Just throwing that out there. And then on top of that, you also have the Patreon link, patreon.com/8122productions for as little as $1 a month. You get a ton of extra bonus content. And on top of that, if you join the $3 Chubby Chaser tier and you do it by next Monday as the cutoff day, you will be entered in to win a 607 Podcast exclusive hoodie that will only be doled out to those of us in 607 Podcasts as our trip to New York Comic Con is coming up. Mm-hmm. And also, if you're a $3 tier member in October, as a gift for New York Comic Con, we are giving out an exclusive T-shirt that you can't get anywhere else besides being a member of the Chubby Chaser tier. So it's a $1 and $3 tier. It helps support everything we do. And on top of that, you get a ton of extra bonus content. Of course, we're on all social medias. 3 Fat Nerds Pod. Throw an @ in front of it if you have to. And that's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Of course, Twitter is probably the easiest because that's where I'm most active. But we do have Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as well.
Right on. Thank you so much for coming through the show. I'll just kind of sum it up very quickly. If you want to get a hold of Padawan J, Coach Stuffy, or myself, swing on over to odphpodcast.com where you can go check us out on social media. All our links are right there. You can also check out all the bands that you hear on the show each and every week. So shout out to everybody. Amazing job at Porch Fest, too. If you were in 607 locally, heard nothing but great things coming out of that. New Parlay Points blogs coming on.
Brian Wolf wants to get in on Porch Fest.
Oh, I heard something about that. So
Yeah,
our guy
he posted on Facebook, how do I get in on Porch Fest?
our guy from Austin, Texas wants to come back up for Porch Fest.
We could probably make that happen.
Yeah, we could definitely make something happen like that. So like I say, all of that and so much more is at odphpodcast.com. Wow, we've had a long episode.
By the way, just real quick, I think that on the TeePublic store, we need to come up. This might be a little inside baseball for wrestling fans, but remember, 440 was missing Eddie Only for a while. We've been missing Coach for a while. I think we should come up with Have You Seen Coach shirts.
I'm down for it.
So I think we should make this happen on TeePublic. I would support the hell out of that because it'd be hilarious.
Can we dress them up in Alabama Crimson Tide gear?
Oh, we'll make it red and white.
Oh, we can make it. Yeah, we can do whatever, and we get on TeePublic and we'll make it happen. Because we can just do the Have you seen this man call, and then just give a random number because I'm giving out my number. But still.
We can definitely make it happen. Oh, now you got me thinking about this.
I know, this is great. I'm telling you, I'm buying one if you make it.
Oh yeah, we'll be working on that in between now and New York Comic Con. Rest assured. So from Rich from 3FN 8122 Productions, thank you again for swinging through.
Absolutely.
For the one and only Padawan J.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Locks and Leaps, are you in? We'll see you next time.